everybody, it's Romania Black, and I'm not gonna lie to you all, it is so cold outside. There's like 10 inches of snow down on the ground. It's freezing. I have a blanket in my lap, my little corgi sushi blanket I got for Christmas, and I have my coffee warmed up, and I am ready for Hunter x Hunter and episodes 18 and 19. Before we get started, though, I want to say, I told my mods, I'm going to start out the video, so hopefully people are listening and they will tune into this part. I am planning to react to the manga and review it, react to it, one of the two, at some point after I finish this first arc and before the second arc. However, I keep on getting all of these questions on YouTube, mainly YouTube. Patreon, y'all are amazing. You ain't doing anything wrong. Keep it up. So, Patreon's great, but everybody on YouTube's like, when are you gonna watch the 1999 version? There's more Leorio and Kurapika moments in the 1999 version. In the 1999 version, it's not just one person. There have been so many comments about, are you gonna watch the 1999? No. The answer is no. I cannot emphasize anymore how not watching the 1999 version I am doing right now. And it's not anything bad. I'm like, one day I would like to watch the 1999 version. But if you're asking me to watch the 99 version because there are moments that the 2011 version cut out, guess what? I'm gonna react or review the manga. Maybe just review it because people won't leave me alone. And I will see those moments. So don't spoil me on those moments. Just let me be. It's not been a thing, but it makes me upset. One, because it's making my moderators have to read those comments and they're just like, And two, I have said it so many times in my videos and it just means these people aren't listening to anything I say. And the English teacher in me is like, read the syllabus. I just have a read the syllabus moment. I'm like, so no, I am not watching the 99 version. I do not want to know the differences between the 99 version and the 11 version. I will read and review the manga and I will discover those differences. Don't you worry. And if the 99 version does things that the 2011 version doesn't, then when the series is all over, you can compile a giant list and just send me the list and show me all the things. But I guarantee most of the things you're talking about are going to be in the manga, which I'm going to review. So I just keep getting comments and I'm like, we're on episode 18, 19. We've been doing this for about 8 or 9 weeks. I'm like, hey, anyway, that was my rant for the day. Just my rant for the day. So anyway, I guarantee somebody in the comments will be like, so are you reading the 1999 version? And I'll be like, because that's just how it works, right? And I'll just heart it and move on. I am. Any more comments I get about the 99 version, I'm just going to heart them, which means I didn't read it. And then I won't respond. I'm like Lucille Bluth from Arrested Development. I don't understand the question and I will not answer it. So that's where I'm at. Oh my God. But I do want to talk about some comments for episode 11 and 12. There weren't any comments for episodes 13 through 15 on Patreon that were bearing repeating here in the comments section. But I do have several from episodes 11 and 12 I want to go over with you all and talk about those. First of all, Fornoda coming through, because I had asked in episodes 11 and 12, I'm like, whenever LaRoute pulls back the hood and you hear the wow, like voice over, I was like, is that where this originated? Is that where this came from? Like, was it like the Wilhelm scream? And Fornoda says, you are the second person I've seen asking that question. But no, the effect predates Hunter x Hunter by a good decade. It's from the 1990 arcade game, Parodius Da, Shinwa Kara Awarahi. One of the bosses is called Honey Mikayo, which if that's not a stripper name, appearing as a blonde woman under a bed sheet, if that's not a stripper, who moans when she is hurt and exclaims, wow, when she is defeated. Gotta credit Know Your Memes. They rarely disappoint. Also, the 1990s. Good old fashioned sexual objectification of women. Yeah. Where's my male equivalent? Where's my heated rivalry equivalent of wow? Where is it? Where is it? I'm in a mood today, y'all. I have some energy. I've been stuck in my home with it snowing. I have energy, and we're going to use it in this reaction and discussion today. I have a feeling. And so then we have a couple comments. The concept and reception of Leorio in episodes 11 and 12 has such a broad spectrum. And so these three comments back to back are the spectrum of Leorio appreciation to kind of hesitation is what I'm going to call them. But it is a spectrum. So we're going to start first with Hydroid Medusa, who says, to be honest, Leorio was on thin ice for me after episode 11. I just have very little patience for lecherous characters, and I think it's worsened by the fact that Leorio wants to be a medical doctor. I'm coming back around on him, but this episode was a real low point. I will say, from what we've seen so far, Leorio is kind of being the disaster character. He's our disaster bisexual. And the episode 11 was kind of a low point for me too. I will say that. However, Immer, I think it's Immer Recaps had kind of a different view altogether and was pointing something out that I think is pretty interesting to note. They said, I always found it interesting how almost everyone blames the entire outcome on Leorio because Kurapika did the same, meaning because of his selfishness, he almost squandered the chance of the whole group to pass the exam. The only reason that we don't blame Kurapika is that Leorio actually solved the problem that Kurapika had created and allowed the match to continue. I have a additional comment to that, but I want to go ahead and continue. And so I'm not saying all of this is to ignore Leorio's bad traits or pretend they don't exist, but because I always notice people applying some kind of double standard to Leorio and Kurapika in this particular test, I guess I kind of understand it because of the shock value, quote unquote, of Leorio's way of losing is much greater than Kurapika's quote unquote withdrawal from the match, but it still feels unfair. I think it's important to bring that up because I think Emma Recaps is correct. Kurapika does also make it to where they could have cost the group the round. I think most people kind of get mad at Leorio because in Kurapika's case, the reason why he withdraws and doesn't fulfill the requirements of the match is because those requirements would involve killing someone. Now, Killua was like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, don't have a problem with that. But Kurapika seems like, even though Kurapika has been around death a lot and kind of is okay with seeing death, they're not thrown off by it like Leorio was in that episode set. Which we're going to talk about in the next comment. I'm saving that, so put a pin in that. I do think that because Leorio made some dumb decisions. He was boastful, he was too proud, he was overestimating himself and underestimating his opponent, and he was making really dumb choices, and that's why people give him such a hard time. And he was kind of lecherous, and it's like, ew, gross, stop that, Leorio. We don't like to see you like that. Whereas Kurapika's whole thing is, I don't want to kill this person. I do think that's a little bit more of, it's not just apples and oranges. I do think there's more weight with Kurapika's decision. I think that's why they get more of grace in that moment because their decision was involving killing someone. Leorio he wanted to touch a girl's boobs. And so he sacrificed valuable hours so he could touch a girl's boobs. Those are two different things. But I do agree with Emma Recaps that we should not overlook the idea that, yes, Kurapika did, for selfish reasons, although it was killing someone, choose to withdraw from the match. So I do think that is worth noting, right? But I think the flack that Leorio gets is very fair, in my opinion. And then Kyle Greens, 6711 says, one thing that you definitely noted here that is perhaps the first time in the show we've seen someone, like Leorio, react normally is to violence and death. Death has been pervasive throughout the Hunter exam, and no one has batted an eye. This obviously makes sense for Killua and Kurapika, considering their familiarity with death. But I do like how it establishes Leorio's empathy within the group. We know he's familiar with death, too, since it happened to his friend. And that's behind his driving motivation for money and becoming a hunter. In fact, he's the only one of the quartet who seems to want to become a hunter for altruistic reasons. Free healthcare king! Yay! Which is ironic considering his focus on money and gambling. Yes, that's kind of what is so frustrating about him in episode 11 is like, you're against the money and gambling, and yet you do it in this episode, sir. But just a little Leorio love, considering some of the unfortunate stuff that happens in this match. At least it was consensual? I guess? I love the question marks like, It was 2011, and it was also 1999. It was a different time. But yes, the one left out of the analysis is Gones, who, as far as we know, isn't familiar with death, but doesn't seem bothered by it. So yeah, I really like that. Look, don't y'all get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. I love Leorio. He's just kind of a disaster right now. But as we all know, in shonen, sometimes disaster characters have to be a disaster before they have their big comeuppance moment and their big growth and evolution and blooming moment, right? Right? So we're gonna hold out for Leorio there. We're gonna see how this episode set goes. And then finally, Oooooohhh, you are amazing. They go Romania, quote, yaoi connoisseur and Donmai ambassador. I am the Donmai ambassador today. Romania, yaoi connoisseur and Donmai ambassador Black says, I'm not opposed to our quartet being 4 guys. That made me choke on my granola bar. You don't say! Look, when I said that, I did not mean because of all the yaoi possibilities, but game calling out game. And then they did ask this, which I do want to bring up. Does your first Hunter x Hunter break start after episode 21 or after episode 26? I don't know what happens after episode 21, so we're not going to focus on that right now. But 26. Back in episode 1, I gave a little chart. You probably had to zoom in on it, so it probably wasn't good visuals. But I did say back in episode 1 that after episode 26, we'd have our first break, which is going to be true. I'm going to be watching on my channel the One Piece live action is going to replace this for 8 weeks, and then we'll dive back in. So just a little brief interlude before we get back in Hunter x Hunter. So yeah, that's what I got. So yeah. So anyway, I'm super excited to see what we're going to get this episode said. If you couldn't tell, I've been talking way too long, but I'm super fired up. I'm super energized. I'm excited. It's going to be a fun time. But yes, I thank you all so much for commenting. I don't want anybody to not comment. You all have been amazing. I've enjoyed your comments. They've shed some light on situations in this series I hadn't thought about, but please, just don't ask me if I'm watching the 1999 version. I've said it the last 8 weeks. The answer is no. So and again, I'm expecting some people aren't going to listen or read or use literacy skills, but that's an English teacher can dream. Anyway, I've got this plugged up. We are going to go ahead and get started. When we last left off, Leorio and Kurapika. Leorio had been bitten many times by poisonous snakes. They are poisoned. It's not good. And Kurapika and Gon are stuck in the cave with him now and are potentially facing a bunch of snakes. And we found out that Bourbon is dead. Yikes. And now we got to deal with that. So how is Ponzu and them going to escape? We're going to find out. And so we are going to check out Hunter x Hunter episodes 18 and 19. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's do it to it. Woo! Oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. The idea that comment asked if we were ending at episode 21 makes me think that the 4th phase of the exam might end at episode 21, but I feel like it's going to end before then, though. I feel like it's going to end in this episode or the one that's next. So, I don't know. I don't know how that works. There's not the only other recap episode in the entire series that I know of is episode 26, and that's at the very end. So we'll see. We'll see. Bum, 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 bum. Look, I want the best for Leorio. Again. You can fly away. I like that Minchi and the one guy that's the gourmet cooks, they both are rocking the crop top. You can smile. Y'all, Hisoka! We're gonna see. We're gonna see. Okay. But yeah, y'all should have listened to him. And Bourbon's dead, and Ponzu's like, what am I gonna do? Big time interview. Interview. Is Ponzu secretly a journalist? Yeah, that's a problem. They do look a little corpsey. Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, damn it, girl. Is Kropika like, let me go experiment. Oh shit! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh! Oh. Oh shit. Has she been bit? Oh wow. Yeah. Oh, bees! Bees! Oh damn. He was allergic. Uh-huh. Ooh. Okay, yeah. Uh-huh. And nobody... Leorio had the EpiPens in his case! Are they hidden in her hat? Oh. Does she keep bees in her hat? Bees in the hat. Bees in the hat. Okay. Girl was prepared. Okay. Oh. Oh. Oh, okay. I thought she was bitten by snakes. Oh, ew. Yeah, bees in the hat. Bees in the hat. Bees in the hat. Oh, well. Damn. Bees in the hat. Yeah, that's a problem. So what do we do now? Huh. Yeah, are you saying they would? Oh. Oh, okay. Interesting. That's a problem. Huh. Yeah. Oh. Oh. Oh, shit. Oh. Kropika's like, I'm not settling for that. Ooh. Gon, what we doing? Oh. Gon, are you immune to the snakes? Oh. Oh. Oh my god. Oh my god, Gon. Oh, don't just throw syringes! Oh! Oh! Don't just throw syringes, Gon. I can't. No, needles, no. Yeah, literally. I mean, the odds were in his favor. Yeah. That took a lot of courage. Yeah. Oh. And then there's Leorio. Yes, good friends. History will call them good friends. Gon is like a freaking... Okay, okay. Uh-huh. Oh. But how are you going to keep yourself from sleeping? You'd be surprised how long this kid can hold his breath. Oh my god. Mmm. Yeah. Aww. Aww. I mean, what choice do you have? You either trust him and hope it works out, or you risk not advancing at all. Oh my god. Holy shit. I like that Karapika's holding Leorio while they're about to fall asleep. Just saying. Just saying. Oh. Oh. Wow. How strong is this child? What are they feeding these kids on Whale Island? What are they feeding these children on Whale Island? Mito, what protein you got out there? Oh. Oh. Wow. The fee. I love it. I love it. Oh shit, we are ending it. Oh. Damn it. Oh. Ooh. Where's your boyfriend? Where's he at? Is he still buried? Is he unburied himself? Ponzu! Oh my god. Oh, there he is! Your boyfriend was waiting on you! Wow. Wow. And... Okay, Botaro made it. Hanzo found it. No, there's more. Yeah! Get that Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Oh, Killua doesn't care about Leorio and Kurapika. Shut up. Ooh. Ooh. Yep. Yes, here we go. 9. 9. Down to 9, huh? Ooh. Oh. Comes in phases. So Totes is like, yeah. Yeah, what we doing? Peculiar. Oh. Why is this an interview? Yeah, you did. I think he will. Aww. I'm sure the Killua and Nezero interview will go great. Netero. Shortest interview in history. Kurapika notices. Something's up. It could be related. Hisoka's like, I want to kill you right now. Oh, that's terrifying. Yes, exactly. Oh. Wow, that's interesting. This is like freaking Drag Race. Oh. Would you? Would you? So many things I want to say. That's who you're going to get paired with. Wow. Does he understand that? Oh. Yeah, he's like, not gonna pay attention to that. Bye. Okay, interesting. Yeah. He is crafty. Oh, bitch. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. Would you? I don't want to fight Hisoka. Since we're the same age. Sure. Oh. Right, as you should. He's got charisma. I bet you could, though. Oh, you don't want to fight your boyfriend? Wow. Oh, I don't want to fight my friends. Hisoka's the one that nobody wants to fight, and he's so dangerous. Exactly. Damn, Hisoka. Positive reasons. Positive reasons. And 44 for negative. Nice. Oh. Anyone. Aww. Oh, wow. Okay. He's like, man, more lopsided than I expected. Y'all looking out for Gon and Hisoka. Killa was in there too. Oh. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, ask him about it. Heart. A bracket. Oh my god. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. This crazy old man. That's a serious expression? Oh. And losing will mean death? Talk to him, Kurapika. Yeah. You know, you can talk to an adult if you ever need to. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Gon's really good at explaining it in a very concise way. Damn. I'm glad he's telling Kurapika this. At his powerlessness. Oh. Oh. Oh, sweetheart. Kurapika, give him a head pat at least. Let him cry it out. And lonely. Aww. 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 Uh-huh. And I bet he knows kind of how Gon feels too, in a sense. Yeah. Aww. Aww, bless their hearts. We're going to talk about this in the discussion, but I'm so glad Kurapika was there to talk to him. Yes. Oh my God, the final phase. We're going to set it up next week. Oh, we're going to set up for next week. We're going to watch the episode now. So let's get that started here in 3, 2, 1. Oh, buddy. We're going to skip the end credits from last episode so we can get to this. I'm so glad Gon could talk to Kurapika. We're going to talk about it in the discussion, but I just feel like Leorio would have been okay to talk to, but Kurapika, there's a reason why having him talk to Gon is important. And he just couldn't talk to Killua the same way because they're peers. And I don't think Killua would have the same empathy that Kurapika does, but by and large, by a landslide. So, weren't there 9 in that image? And now there are 9 that are left to be taking the exam? If we're doing a bracket, and I'm probably going to get this all wrong in the next minute, but you have 2, 4, 6, 8, and then you have a buy-in. So you have, like, 2 groups of 2 against each other. Then you have one that can just, like, a buy-in seed. So, like, Hisoka could be the buy-in, where whoever, like, the first seed and the 16th seed win, then the buy-in comes in. I don't know how that... I'm thinking of, like, Super Bowl, which is ironic when this episode's coming out. It's around the time for the Super Bowl. I want to see how Netero explains this. He's having way too much fun pitting these people who could kill each other against each other. I would think Hisoka's answer would make me go, oh! But Netero's like, no, that seems legit. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Yeah. Ugh. Interesting. Okay. What we going to get from this? Okay. Can't win and can't lose. Interesting. Okay. They're called the Brady Bunch. The Brady Bunch. What in the Taj Mahal is this? Fancy that. At this hotel. Battles, you say? One-on-one. Oh, here we go. Last person standing. Oh. Oh. Okay. They will not pass. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. So it's like, it's basically, this is the Lollapalooza from Drag Race. Interesting. This is literally the lip sync for your life. Oh, wow. And Kurapika, shit. Okay. Oh, buddy. Don't be thinking, Hanzo. That scares me. Hisoka doesn't seem amused. Oh, wow. I'd say Leori, the other bracket's not so bad. Yeah, they get 5 chances. Oh, interesting. Perform better, receive more chances. What about Hisoka? Yeah, that seems bullshit. Killua senses some bias. Ah! Oh my god! Oh, of course they are! Release the dossier! Okay. Impressions. Impressions make a difference. Huh. Mmm. So Leorio gets the least chances. Oh my god. I just realized that. Leorio and Botaro get the least chances. That's interesting. That's interesting. That's rather subjective. Ooh. Oh. If you weren't on the radar, you're going to get a lot of chances. Oh, Killua. Oh, Killua. Netero's messing with you, though. He really is. Look at that booty on number 301. Oh, you can't kill anybody. Okay. You can't kill anybody, so somebody's just gonna not be. So they're planning on passing 8 hunters. Okay. Gonna pass 8. Whew. Oh man, that makes me want to crack my wrists. How's this gonna work? Can't kill anybody. I'm trying to think. We're talking about in the spoiler corner. I'm just realizing Hanzo looks kind of like Bullet Bill in his outfit. I wonder if Masta's a reference. Oh. Oh. What? What? Yeah, I had no idea either. I don't remember this. Yeah, yeah. Right. Yeah, I'm with Leorio and Gon. Interesting. Interesting. We're going to talk about that. Oh. Okay, so you can't just knock them out. They have to surrender. Is he just going to surrender? Is he just going to surrender and fight the next person? Get him, Gon! Yeah. Is Hanzo, how's this gonna work? No response. No response. Oh, shit. Oh. 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 Ooh. Killua, don't compare yourself to Gon. Oh, shit. Ooh. No, he ain't gonna do that. Gon ain't gonna give up. Oh. Oh. Oh, shit. Oh. Ooh. Oh, my God. Oh, Gon. Oh, sweetheart. Oh. Yeah. Hell no! He's just a boy! He's just a boy. Yeah. Oh. 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 Oh, yeah. Right. So they're just gonna get tortured by this. Jesus. Mm-hmm. Ah. Ah. Damn. Hanzo. Oh, Jesus. This is. Oh, I don't like seeing this child get beat. Yeah. Ahsoka's like, how uncivilized. Oh, there's blood. Oh, my God. 3 hours? Oh. Oh, sweetheart. Oh. Come on, Leorio. Oh. Damn. Oh. Oh, sweetheart. Oh. Oh. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh shit. Oh. 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 Oh, Leorio, I feel your pain. Oh. 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 Are you? So he's only 18? Or he's probably 20. Or, yeah. Killa was like nothing to brag about. Oh! Oh, you bitch! Gone! Mom and dad behavior. Wow. Oh. Oh. Oh, sure, I bet you did. Liar! Oh my God. Can he do that? Is that allowed? Is that allowed? No! I don't want my legs cut off! Oh my God! Excuse me. Oh. I'll bleed to death and then you won't pass. Correct. See? Neither of us wants that to happen. Oh my God, Gone. Killua. Oh. Wow. Oh. Because of Gone. I love it turns purple. Ooh. Uh-huh. You might be surprised how that talk no jutsu works. Does it though? Does it though? Does it though? Oh. Wow. No, no answer. Oh. Oh, wow. Oh, he pushed back a little bit. Yes. Wow. Killua's like, really? Oh. He's giving you the win. Take the win, Gon! Take the win! Work together! This honestly would probably be how Goku would do it too. Yes. Yes! Wow. Uh-huh. Oh. Hmm. Ooh. In the lip sync for your life. In the lip sync for your life. Wow. Okay. Holy shit. This was an episode set. This was an episode set, y'all. This was one. For sure. Interesting. I have things to say, including for Killua in the spoiler corner, but... Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. Okay. Sure. Hisoka's ready to lip sync for his life. In this lip sync-a-perusa. I don't remember this at all, or how it was gonna go. So, okay. Okay. Wow. So, yeah, there's gonna be quite a bit we need to talk about here. Look, I need you all to understand. I'm so glad I have such energy for this week because this was such a good episode set. This was such a great episode set. I am going to have a lot in the spoiler corners to talk about because some things hit me during this reaction set and I was like, oh, but I honestly, if I'm being 100% honest with you all, I did not recall how this ended. And I was like, okay, we're going to talk about that. And also, I did not remember what the final phase of this exam was. We're going to talk about it in the spoiler corner. There's a lot. The spoiler corner is going to be buzzing like Ponzu's hat, bees in the hat. Like, it's going to be buzzing like Ponzu's hat this week because I have a lot that I want to say in the spoiler corner that has all, I feel like Celine Dion's playing and it's all coming back to me now is sort of starting to come into play, but we're not there. We're not there. We're just going to talk about the episodes as they are. There's plenty to talk about with the episodes as they are. Plenty to talk about in terms of that. And then we'll have the spoiler corner. So we're going to go with that. But yeah, to be fair, didn't remember how Bourbon had died. I was like, I remember that we need to go ahead and just start the screenshots. We're going to use Whiteboard Kun to break down Netero's reasoning with the chart and then our Lollapalooza, which is our in 3, 2, one. There we go. Now we'll show Bourbon on the screen here. Yeah, in Drag Race, which I watch RuPaul's Drag Race quite a bit, they have a challenge. It's called the Lip Sync Lollapalooza, and basically it's a single elimination, except when you win, you advance to the next round, and the last person standing is the one that gets eliminated. This is essentially the same concept. I had it backwards. I was like, oh, we have a bracket, and we'll talk about that later. But yeah, so I had forgotten how Bourbon had died, and him getting stung by the bees and going into anaphylactic shock all makes sense. And I forgot that Ponzu's hat housed bees, which it looks like a beehive, so that all makes sense now. I'm like, okay, that's why she wears the giant hat. That all makes sense. I forget of bees as chemical warfare. It all works out, right? I thought it was a nice twist. I really like it. For some reason, now I can talk about it. I talked about it last week. For some reason, in my mind, when I was remembering this scene, I thought the cave had an explosion happen in the cave, but what it was the sleeping gas going off. I was like, okay, when you've not watched a show in 5 years and you hadn't watched it very closely to begin with, you're like, why was I thinking the cave exploded? The gas from the sleeping gas is what I was thinking of, and I was thinking of Gon running out of the cave, except I forgot he was literally carrying everyone. This is a child that carried 4 grown-ass people on their back, or 3 grown-ass people because they left Bourbon in the cave, but 3 grown-ass people on their backs. Hanzo should have known that going into his match, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, I forgot how Bourbon was gonna die, and then Ponzu was like, yep, he did. I killed him with my bees. Big Time Interview, I was also trying to think of, why is this episode called Big Time Interview? And I couldn't remember that Netero was interviewing them to determine the bracket that he created for the final exam. I think that's interesting. I want to talk about that real quick. I think it's fascinating that they're, up until they all got on the airship, there was no final exam planned out. They just knew they were going to have a final exam. And the reason why I think that is so interesting is because all of the other stages kind of, you couldn't plan out the final exam because you didn't know how many people were going to pass the phase before it. Like, if you think about it, we're going to just put this over here for now. In phase 1, you have 405 people. And the whole goal is just to keep running and follow Satotes until you get to phase 2, until you got to Minchi. That's literally it. So, you know, they could plan out phase 2. So if we had phase 1 had 405. Phase 2 with Minchi was not really contingent upon how many people passed because they had all those grills there. If they didn't use all the grills, they didn't use all the grills. So that one didn't matter either. However many passed, whatever. And they had a couple hundred or so. We'll put like 200 or so. I forget how many passed that second phase, but which was getting the eggs. Again, it doesn't matter. The trick tower doesn't matter how many passed because the trick tower, you just have a time limit. They didn't care how many people passed with the time limit, just that you got it done in the amount of time that you needed to. So phase 3 with Ippo, or with Lipo, was the tower. And from there, we know that 24 people passed that, which again, your next phase and prior phase aren't contingent upon how many people pass. That doesn't change the structure of the exam. Because if you think about it, phase 4, which was the one with the badges on Zevil Island, only 9 of the 24 passed. That's crazy. Some people just didn't get screen time in phase 4. Or if they did, it's manga only, and we'll touch on that when we get there. But yeah, so even phase 4, if you'd had like 200 people on the island, that would have been chaos. Honestly, I think we lucked out with phase 3 only having 24 exit and go to phase 4, because if you think about it, if you'd had hundreds of people on that Zevil Island fighting each other nonstop for badges, it would have gotten chaotic and there would have been no rest. That week on Zevil Island would have been insane. So it's probably, there have been more dead bodies. I think there would have been more dead bodies if more than the 24 applicants, which still, there was tons of dead bodies regardless. But I feel like they got lucky there was only 24, because if there had been more, it could have been a lot more deadly, right? But it's interesting that once we get to the final phase, we only have 9 left. So it's like, okay, what do we do from there? We're at the final phase. What do we do from this point on? What is our final exam? I think it's interesting they did not have one in the works. They were just waiting to see how many people they had to work with. If all 24 had passed, would they have done a single elimination bracket like Netero proposes with 24 people? That seems like it would have taken weeks. They might have done something totally different. If there had only been 2 people pass, would they have done something different? They might have, because it might not have been worth it. So it's interesting that in the final exam that Netero gets to pick, he gets to pick the final exam and how it works, that he's kind of banking off of how all the other hunter exams go first before he determines the choice of methodology to use in that final exam. But anyway, so we find out that Ponzu's like, look, I killed Bourbon and then didn't realize the snake trap was already set and that we can't now get out of it. I really like the animation in this episode, by the way. The animation in both episodes is so good. This series, it goes from being insanely adorable and cutesy to being really grim and dark very quickly. And it flips that switch on and off without a second's notice. And I'm like, oh, Tagashi. And normally you'd think you'd get whiplash, but Gon is like the whiplash buffer. He keeps the whiplash from the whimsical to the macabre. Balanced for now. We'll just put it that way. But yeah. So we find out that Ponzu, I really like Ponzu's character. I couldn't remember how she was the first time I watched, and she kind of comes across as a little bit assertive at first, but she really is kind of nervous because she's like, I'm stuck in this cave. But she also is kind of mad, you can tell, because she's like, I need his badge, and I can't get it because the snakes, I didn't think it all the way through. So you can tell she's very frustrated in this. But honestly, she has a level head about her, which we are very lucky she has a level head, because what she could have done is she could have taken her bees and she could have made the bees attack Gon, Leorio, and Kurapika, and that would have been all she wrote. But Ponzu is pretty smart and has a level head on her shoulders. She doesn't pass the exam portion, but she's able to like survive and live another day. And I kind of like that about her character. I appreciate Ponzu a lot, right? Especially because I feel sad because she ended up getting, like, she needed that badge to have the 6 points, and then Gon gave her the badge, but then at the end he took hers away to give to Leorio, so it kind of nullified her chances of getting out of the exam anyway. But yeah, man, the bees, the poison fighting poisons is interesting. I had a student once that gave me an EpiPen at the beginning of class, and they're like, I might need this, and I was like, oh god. I'm kind of phobic to needles, so the idea of like jabbing a needle in someone's leg, I've had to give cow shots before. It's not funny. I'm like, I'm sorry, like all this. But so yeah, they basically explain how bee stings work. If you've been stung once and get stung again and have an allergic reaction, that's a problem. I've been stung by wasps before. It wasn't fun, but I don't think I'm allergic. So yeah, but some people are, can fatally die from bee stings. So yeah, so she waited for Bourbon to go into the cave. She put the sleeping gas, thought it was safe to enter. And then at that point, he was asleep, but he'd already set his trap. And she reveals that under normal circumstances, she wouldn't have attacked him. But I like the way that her hat works is that if she screams or jumps back, the bees come out. Like they're flustered, right? That's crazy. That's crazy. The bees coming out of the hat is wild. I like Gon's reaction, like, oh, well, that's something you don't see every day. I'm kind of with Kurapika, like, you've been keeping bees in that hat the entire time. Isn't that a little bit crazy? But then again, Bourbon kept snakes on him all the time, so I guess it depends on your level of comfort, but I would not be able to. I feel like they'd be buzzing the whole time, and that would get really annoying. She also looks extremely cute in this shot where she's like, they'll attack any nearby humans. She's super cutesy there. Again, it's this blend of the whimsical and the macabre, because she's sitting there like, oh, they'll just attack and kill you, as she's looking absolutely adorable. Tagashi rides a fine line in all of this. She's like, but I didn't expect him to die. Well, it was beyond my control anyway. But the problem is that he's dead and the trap's still alive, so what do we do? And she points out, there's also 2 things that are pointed out that are not revealed until after the exam was over. And some of the contestants knew it was going on, and some did not. So that's interesting. One thing that we find out that was kept secret from the audience until it was revealed is that the badges have trackers. The badges have trackers on them. I am not surprised by that one, only because it makes sense, and plus it keeps people from going off island and like cheating. So if they like swam around the island or try to get the boat or whatever, that would keep that. They'd be able to track them that way. But it's interesting because that means there's been surveillance throughout the entire... There's a level in this episode set that is being revealed to us that is a little unnerving, especially in these current economic times, and that is this idea of unknown surveillance. Like, granted, the boat's been around the island the whole time, but the trackers on the badges kind of reveal to Kurapika as well as to us, the audience, that they've been watched this entire time. That's the first thing of surveillance we get, is that they've been watched by the badges being tracked. And they didn't know about it. So it's this unknown surveillance. The second thing that's even crazier and even more of the untracked surveillance is the idea that there has been an examination official on the island with them, on the island watching them. That's going to come into play with the interview later on. But there's been somebody there the whole time following them. And Kurapika noticed, Killua noticed, Hanzo noticed. We don't know how any of the others were doing with this information, but Leorio and Gon did not notice. I'm not surprised that Leorio didn't notice, but Gon did not. There's a part of me that wonders if people had caught on that the examiners were watching, if it affected... The thing is, did that affect their actions towards others? We can assume Hisoka probably knew there was an examiner watching. Maybe not. Maybe not. Hisoka seems like sometimes he zones out, so I don't know. But we could assume that let's assume he knew. Let's assume that he knew that he was being watched. Did that impact his actions with giving the badge back to Gon? Did that impact that? Did he do that on purpose? Did it impact anything? We don't know. We're going to assume it didn't. But it's interesting to think that if you knew the examiner was there, did that change your actions on the island? I don't know. For some, it did not. But just knowing that they're there, it is kind of this weird surveillance aspect that is kind of creepy. Really creepy, actually. So yeah, also looking at the island right now, it kind of looks like the eyes of a skull in a way. Looks a little bit like the eyes of a skull, especially on that little radar there, which is interesting. Also looks like an hourglass, which is interesting. So Ponzu's like, look, there's one day left. I guess I'll just stay in this cave. I'll live it out. They're going to come find me and they'll get me out and I'll just do the test over again. My one thing that makes me a little skeptical throughout all of this is she says that the examiners are going to come get her and then she'll get to retake the exam. Would they? Would they? I mean, I guess they would because Tompa is probably getting picked up along with Monkey Man. They didn't pass the exam. Poor Monkey Man. They didn't pass the exam, but they were probably going to get picked up by the examination committee. There is an aspect of me that's like, wow, that's really optimistic thinking on your part, because some of the organization, some of the things they do and say in this episode set, I'm like, it's very much, there's this overarching theme that we're getting into in this episode set about abuse of power and about power and what you can do with power. And it's very relatable in the world that I currently exist in the United States. There's, talks of oligarchies and things like that. There's this overarching concept about people in power get to do whatever the hell they want to, and they make the rules, and they get to choose whether they adhere to those rules or not. And it's concerning and relatable. And it gets talked about in this episode set, but we're going to talk and break it down. But yeah, Ponzu's just sure that they'll come find her and get out of the cave. The only thing I was thinking of is I'm like, do you think that the examination committee would... Ponzu is operating under two assumptions. One, that the committee, the Hunter exam committee, is willing to put themselves in danger enough to go and rescue her. That's an assumption. Do we know if that's true or not? We can assume it is, but that's assuming. We don't know for sure. And the other is She is also under the assumption that the people who are on the examination committee are stronger than her, would be able to solve the problem. What if they couldn't? What if they were like, hey, we tried to come in. Sorry. You know, we just don't know. So it brings up a lot of questions that the series doesn't give us answers to yet. It just throws those questions out there and it says, here's some things to think about for the future. But yeah, they're not going to move until the deadline passes. That also brings up a couple of other ethical considerations, that you have Leorio, who's injured with the poison, and they bring up the reality that the committee is not going to go onto the island until the exam is over. Meaning, even if somebody was dying, even if they reported someone dying, and they were like, hey, this guy is on the island, he's bleeding out, they'd be like, no, you signed the disclosure saying you were good with taking the exam. We're not going to come till it's over. Oh, you bled out and died? Sorry, you signed the NDA, so... That's crazy! And nobody questions it. They just all go, yeah, that's probably what they'll do. Nobody questions and goes, well, that's kind of sucky of the organization. No, they are under the assumption that you signed up to be a hunter and take this exam. You knew going into it that you could die. And we are not responsible for coming and picking you off the island. This ain't Survivor, where if you're bleeding out, we're going to stop the game. Now, is Ponzu correct saying that she warned Leorio and he got hurt because of his own, actions? Well, yeah, she's right in that. But I felt bad for Leorio. I feel bad for Leorio in this because he clearly was trying to do good in that situation and it got him hurt, right? I also think when Kurapika says, and I'm going to throw this to my dog because he was really good during the reaction. I do think that Kurapika brings up, I think the reason Kurapika is like, no, there's still another way and one with a good chance of success. I think that Gon's actions back in Trick Tower have influenced Kurapika just a wee bit. I think they have. I think that we had that black and white thinking in the Trick Tower and Gon presented the third option. I think that that's influenced Kurapika along the way. And they're like, no, let's think of this in terms of other possibilities. And Kurapika was thinking it. Gon was thinking of it too. And Gon ends up being the one to enact it. He's like, I'm sure we'll find some. So yeah, Gon and Kurapika were thinking the exact same thing, that guy had the antidote. But he was willing to go and snatch it off of Bourbon and his body, even when the snakes got all around him. And she's like, he's crazy. Here's the thing, Gon is crazy. Gon has a level of crazy to him. But the hunters recognize that, and we'll talk about it in episode 19. The hunters recognize the crazy, and they all are in on the joke. That isn't a joke, but is going to be talked about. Killua's the one who's not in on the joke. And we're going to talk about that in episode 19, but we're not there yet. But yeah, Gon establishes, we're going to put up here that Gon establishes that he is fearless. He is brave, and he is also selfless. He ends up sacrificing himself on the chance that he'll get the antidote. He also has conviction. And he has determination. He's like, we're going to get it done. And he is also clever. Clever is not exactly the word I would use, but he is, let's change that. Let's change that from clever. He is resourceful. I don't know if clever would be the word I'd use to describe Gon. That's kind of cunning, and that's not really fitting Gon. But he is resourceful. You guys are silly. He is resourceful. He's going to take advantage of his resources. And he also is perseverant. He is not going to give up. As we're going to learn with Hanzo in the next episode. But yeah, so Gon has all these traits, and he's just this farm kid that's like, he's this country boy that's like, nah, we're going to get the antidote. I know, I'm determined that we will. The scariest part of this whole damn episode was when he threw those syringes. I'd be like, don't throw this. I was like, don't throw the glass bottle that could break on the ground. Don't throw the syringes. They didn't even have caps on them. I was like, that's my worst nightmare, would be somebody throwing those damn syringes and stuff. That'd be my worst. Okay, they do have caps. Okay, they had caps. Let's calm down. They had caps on them, but still, I'd been like, oh God, Gon. But yeah, so he throws the syringes and the antidote to Kurapika, and Kurapika is able to give the antidote to both Gon and Leorio. And Ponzu's like, holy shit, these people are crazy. So they took a gamble. It's funny that Leorio can gamble all he wants and he's unsuccessful, and then the one time Kurapika and Gon gamble, it's absolutely right on the money. I feel like that's telling. Poor Leorio, catching strays in these episodes. Leorio was fine in this set. But they rightfully assumed that Bourbon would have antidotes on him, not only for himself if the snakes and something went awry, but to use as a bargaining chip against his opponents. You know, that was a pretty smart, safe assumption to make. The thing is, how are they going to get out now? And that's when Gon immediately like pops back up. He gets an antidote and he's up like that. Boop. I feel like that should be mentioned because Hisoka in the last episode set was like, oh, that poison dart will knock you out for 10 days. And Gon got up within a matter of minutes. Gon is just built different. Gon is able, there's a part of him with poisons and there's a part of him with medicines where they kind of act quickly. And what I think that ties to is that his metabolism is insane. His metabolism is crazy if he's able to like absorb and use all of that so rapidly. It has to be his metabolism, or he has a resistance to poisons. But the medicine was not a poison, so I think his metabolism just acts really, really quickly. I don't know what we're going to do with that, but that just seems to be the case. And so, yeah, he's like, look, I got Bourbon's badge, and I will trade you if you help us get out. And honestly, Ponzu is right to question whether she should trust Gon. Because she's like, what if I knock all of us out, and then you just leave me in the cave and leave everybody else? But Gon does the right thing by convincing her. He's like, hey, I was brave enough to go and do this, and I got it, so trust me, it'll all work out. I really liked this scene where Ponzu decided to try it and have faith in Gon, and Gon was a man of his word. Again, we've established since the very first episode on that damn ship that Gon is somebody that is of their word. If he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. He has integrity. There we go. Our boy Gon has integrity as well. If he says he's going to do it, he's a man of his word. He'll get it done. Easy peasy. And I think that because Ponzu lives past this episode set, to our knowledge, we're assuming that she did since she didn't die, that she's going to tell others of Gon's actions and his integrity, and that's going to be reflected later on. I feel like the man on the ship, I feel like the guide that helped them get to the one phase, I feel like Ponzu, all these people who have seen Gon and seen what like makes him as a person is going to let that knowledge spread like a rumor. Let it spread. Like, did you hear about Gon and this kid in the trials that did this and this and this? It's gonna impact things. I feel like it's gonna have ripple effects for later on, but it's too early to say what that's gonna be. So yeah, and we find out that Gon can hold his breath for 9 minutes and 44 seconds. Which, what's the record? What is the record for holding someone's breath? Someone, a Croatian freediver held their breath for 29 minutes. Underwater, held voluntarily underwater using oxygen. The longest breath held was 29 minutes. That's crazy. That's crazy. So how do your lungs, what? The human body is an enigma. So yeah, so 9 minutes? Sure, why not? It's 20 less than the record. And he's 12, so why not? But yeah, so Gon decides to hold his breath. They agree to use the sleeping gas to make all the snakes fall asleep. And then this boy, I just want to point out the strength of this kid. I liked it. Okay, I want to talk real quick. Gon is genius because he took the bandages, the gauze, wrapped the briefcase strap around Leorio's hand so that it would be flopping in his hand as he went. But he carried, and did they leave Ponzu's bee hat in the cave? That was smart, to leave her bee hat in the cave so that her bees could not attack Gon. That was smart. That was a good move. But yeah, this kid carrying all 3 grown-ass adults on his back, that should be documented. that Gon, in his strength was to carry all on their back. Okay. We're gonna make notes of some of the things that Netero talks about later on, so we'll see about that. But that's crazy. Okay, and then he left Ponzu by the tree. Yep, and swapped out the tags so that Leorio could go. I like that he put her little backpack in the front of her, like so that she could rest up against the tree. That was really nice. But her bee hat was left in the cave with the snakes. That's just how it goes, huh? He's like, just consider it my finder's fee. Consider it my fee for carrying you out of there. I love it. It's great. So they get an hour of extra time to get back to the boat. I like that most of them were just hanging out waiting for the opportune moment. And at first I was like, is Hisoka going to get there before his boyfriend? But we don't know for sure. However, they are all conveniently right next to each other. Right by that ship. So only 9. Only 9 passed. Interesting. They said 6 were rookies. I don't think Hanzo is a rookie. Hisoka's not a rookie. I'm assuming maybe Botaro is not a rookie, but the other 3, Puzzle, I think him, Killua, our other crew, and I feel like 301's a rookie because they would have maybe mentioned him before, but interesting. Interesting. So, and maybe I'm right. Maybe Botaro is not the rookie. Maybe Botaro is a rookie. Okay, so everybody's tags. Oh, I want to go through this real quick with you all. So Hisoka has the tag of his target, which was the guy that threw the poison dart. He also got the big nose guy as well. That was one of the targets. And then he got the one from Kurapika. That was that one. And then we're assuming, and the one from 301. So those were his. Right. So he just ended up with those tags. What's interesting is he only killed one person. He killed 2 people. He killed the big nose guy and the guy that was his target, but that was it. The other 2 were given to him, so that's interesting. They were the sniper one. Pockle had his and the big nose guy that he sliced with the arrow. Killua has the brother and his own that he got. Then we have 301, who got their target, interestingly enough. And then we had Bodoro. He had his and his target. I don't know who 34 his target was. I don't remember that one. And then Hanzo got his as well as one of the brothers, but it wasn't the correct brother. And then he found 362 and 89. I don't remember those other 2, but I'm guessing that they were just randos that we might have talked about last week that were no longer in the game. Okay. And so then as they're waiting for the others to arrive, we see our 3 come out of the bushes. I think it's kind of funny that Killua just says Gon. Killua didn't give a crap if Kurapika and Leorio passed. He was just happy that Gon passed. I mean, was he happy Leorio and Kurapika passed? Who knows? But he was definitely happy to see Gon. And as Gon is going to give him the thumbs up, he notices Hisoka. And Hisoka's like, yep, there you are. So you made it here. I feel for Gon. I would not want to owe Hisoka a favor either. I wouldn't want to owe that man a favor either. Not at all. Especially with Hisoka's character. But we're going to talk about this. But I think it's interesting that we have this concept. I'm going to put this arrow over here. This arrow tying us from Gon to this point here. That Gon, he feels helpless. He feels helpless and powerless. That he stood no chance to Hisoka. That's the worst part, that he had to rely upon Hisoka for help and that he does not want to pay him back. Like, that all makes total sense. Yeah. And it's clearly bothering him. And I'm glad that Kurapika has noticed. Like, Kurapika noticed, I think, before. Killua doesn't notice. I think that's interesting. Killua didn't notice something was off. But Killua's not someone that's used to reading people emotionally. It doesn't seem that way, right? He's kind of just, in his own place. And Kurapika had their badge and their target. Leorio the same. Leorio looks a little bit like Leorio looks a little guilty, like, yeah, I got Ponzu's badge, didn't need any help. and then Gon has his. The 9 applicants have passed. 6 of the 9s are rookies. We know Hisoka's not a rookie. I am assuming that Botaro and Hanzo are the other not rookies. I could be wrong on that, but I assume that's the case. And then Netero's like, well, you know, these things go in cycles. Some years you get no applicants that make it, and some years you have a whole bunch. I think that it's interesting, and I like that the dinner party has gotten bigger. It was the 2 gourmet hunters and Satotes, and now Lipo's there as well, and the edamame man, Mr. Bean, he's there too now. Although, Netero gets his own couch, because Netero's not sharing with any of you bitches. So, and Satotes and Lipo had a failed relationship, so that's why they stay on different couches now. I'm joking. I don't even know. Nobody wants to sit next to Lipo. But Satotes and Mr. Bean are in a long-term relationship. So yeah, they're like, you know, there's this trend where we go many years without a single rookie qualifying. I hadn't thought about that, but that is a fair point, that depending on how extreme or how difficult the hunters make the exams, you may have some years where nobody passes. They did bring that up at the beginning of the series. There's some years where hardly anybody or maybe one person passes, and that's it. And it's like, okay, the contingency is kind of depending on what they want to do, right? And this goes kind of back to, I talked in episodes prior about this livestock group that I was trying to qualify as a judge for, and I didn't qualify, but they had similar things. The setup was kind of similar to this in a way, which is kind of weird, but they have in their laws, in their organization, where you have to get at least an 80%. All applicants that sign up for this course and the certification have to get an 80% to pass. Seems pretty easy. You're like, 80%, that's like a B-, can do that. But the rules also state that the committee can change those rulings to where they can up that percentage if they deem it necessary. And you're like, well, that sounds like bullshit. And it's like, you are correct. So when I've competed twice for that certification, and I've not passed either time. The first time they made it 88%, and I was like, and I got an 83. The last time they made it, I got an 87, and they made it 92. And I was like, ah. So getting better, but still not good enough. So yeah, it kind of feels similar to this. So he's like, we have a whole bunch of promising newbies. He's like, this is the 4th time I've seen it happen. I don't know how old Netero is, but he seems a little bit elderly. So if he's seen this 4 times before, who knows? Maybe he saw it happen like 2 years in a row, and that was like 10 years ago. So who knows? But this is the 4th time. 4th time with the quartet of 4. And number 404, 405, I don't know. The number 4 seems relevant in this series at this point. And they just got done with phase 4. So Toad says, what are we doing for the final phase? And he's like, yeah, about that. I'm going to have them participate in a rather peculiar fight. So at this point, Netero has been thinking about what to do. Netero had decided on the bracket. He decided on the bracket, and so we're going to put this person here as the one out. The one out is going to be here. We're going to have our little line of our people there. So Netero had decided on this peculiar fight before this interview process even started, right? So Alex Satotes is like, a peculiar fight? What do you mean by that? And then old Willy Wonka Grandpa here is like, I'm going to talk to each of the contestants first. So I feel for Leorio because he feels bad that Kurapika and Gon had to basically help him pass at this point, and he calls himself pathetic. He's like, I needed the 2 of you to do everything for me in the 4th phase. I promise I'll return the favor. So I love these, like, thanks. It's super cute. I love that. I love that Leorio's like, so thanks for helping. It's adorable. And I like that. I feel like Gon can instantly relate because he feels like he knows what that feels like to be powerless in the moment. So he's like, it's okay. Hey, we're all buddies, old pals. We're here to help each other. It's fine. Here we go. My dog's been like trying to get me to throw this. There we go. So yeah, I feel for Leorio. Good for him. And so then we have the announcement for the applicants. There's going to be an interview. So the first person that's called up is Hisoka. It's like a name that makes Gon instantly shudder, and Kurapika notices it. Kurapika is very observant. Here's the thing that's interesting to me. Killua is the assassin's person, but Killua is, I would argue Killua is not maybe as observant as Killua thinks he is. Killua is also 12, so he's a 12-year-old. So if you know any 12-year-olds, they're like 6th graders. If you've ever been, I used to substitute teach, and I will tell you, 6th graders are right on that cusp of thinking they know things. I feel like if you sub grade school, like kindergarten through 5th grade, they're learning, they're listening to what you have to say, they're soaking it in like a sponge. Usually I think kids are pretty receptive when they're that age towards adults, right? Given the circumstance. Once you get to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they start to get attitudes and they start to think they know things. And you're like, you're 12. You don't know things. So I feel like Killua thinks he is much more observant than he may actually be. Kurapika's observant. Kurapika is observant. He noticed the observer at the on Zevil Island. He's noticed things. He's picked up on the fact that Killua is dangerous, and it's a good thing he's on their side, quote unquote. And he notices something's up with Gon, and has been up with Gon for a while on that island. And it has something to do with Hisoka, because Gon has a reaction every time Hisoka's mentioned. But we're going to get to that later. So as they're flying to this luxury island that all the elites have if you're hunters, Netero's like, here, take a seat. And Hisoka's, I love Hisoka! This genuinely got me where he's like, don't tell me this is the final exam. Hisoka's like, don't tell me I killed all these people, went through all this trouble, and now it's going to be an interview that determines whether we win or lose. Please don't tell me that that's the case. That's so funny. Hisoka, this is the problem. Hisoka grows on you like a rash. He grows on you like a fungus, and you're like, he's so creepy and off-putting, but there's things that he does that I'm like, that's actually really clever. And I'm like, damn it. And Netero's like, well, it may be related. Netero trying to look innocent. I'm like, F you. No, don't be trying to look innocent. He's like, I'm just asking a few questions to satisfy my curiosity. Hisoka's like, I want to kill him so bad. And here's the thing. I think Netero baited him. I think Netero is baiting people. He's baiting Killua. He's baiting Hisoka. I think he baited both of them to see if they'd take the bait. And Hisoka resisted because Hisoka is strong. I don't think Killua resisted the bait. We're going to talk about it when we get to it. I'm just satisfying my curiosity. And Hisoka's like, oh, really? So, because Hisoka's like, Netero made himself very vulnerable. Like, are you going to try to kill me? Here's the thing. Netero is insanely strong. You will not convince me otherwise because he's one of the top people in the Hunter organization. He's like one of the top brass, if not the top brass. So Netero is the president, right? He's going to be freaking strong, like OP strong. And Hisoka knows that, but it was very tempting for someone to like, it's like a Victorian woman lifting up the skirt and showing that ankle, being like, see that? That's literally what Netero did to Hisoka, was flash that ankle, and Hisoka was almost tempted. Interesting. He's like, first, why do you want to become a hunter? I wish I could have heard all the answers with all of them. Hearing all of the interviews would have been really fun to see all the questions, but then we wouldn't get the exposition like we got with Hanzo. So, but yeah. And so Hisoka, much like Killua, is not interested in becoming a hunter, except that the hunter license is very useful. And so he says, for example, you can usually hunters aren't punished when they kill someone. We're going to press pause right there. Because what I thought he was going to say was that, oh, well, hunters can go anywhere. We've established that if you are a hunter, you get access to literally any country. You don't have to have a passport. You just decide and you're like, I'm a hunter. I have a badge. I'm good to go. And you get access virtually anywhere. That's insane. But also when he says that usually hunters literally get away with murder. That right there, if you had any red flags that were slightly waving with this organization, that would be the biggest red flag, would be that they can murder people. And it's usually turned the other way. Because what separates them from other murderers? What separates them from assassins? What separates them from mercenaries? Because they're hunters and they met the standard you put in front of them? That's a big question, because we're going to talk about it with Gon in episode 19, but what's being established here is that if you're in the good old boys club, well, you murdered that person, I'm sure you had a good reason. That's literally what they're saying. And Ahsoka's like, oh, so if I'm a hunter and I pass and I've met your standards, that means I'm equal to you. And if it's okay for me to murder somebody, you wouldn't say it's not okay for me, because that would be a poor reflection upon you because you passed me and let me be a hunter, right? That's so dangerous. So, that's interesting. We're going to talk about that again in episode 19. We're going to bring that back up. But for now, he's like, And Netero's like, oh, I see. The fact that Netero just goes, oh, cool. That's your reason? Interesting. I'll note that. He's probably heard the exact same thing. He says, okay, so which of the 8 applicants are you keeping an eye on? So Hisoka's the only one that gives us an answer to the overarching question of why be a hunter. Hisoka's reasons is that so he can kill people without having repercussions. Noted. So here we have question number 1, which that question was, who do you have your eye on? Who are you keeping your eye on? That's a very open-ended question. That can mean lots of things. That can mean like you're watching them because they're a threat. You're watching them because you're interested in them for positive reasons, as Kurapika would say. There's lots of reasons. So he says, who am I keeping my eye on? And he says number 99. And the way that Hisoka views Killua is as an assassin with the nails, like his own. So he's like game meets game. So for Hisoka is keeping his eye on Killua. He's keeping his eye on number 99. And he says, 405 is also on my radar, but it's number 99 I'm keeping an eye on. So he puts Gon like as the honorable mention, but Killua's the one he's keeping his eye on. I would love to take him on one day. We're going to talk about this. We're going to come back in the spoiler corner, but he wants to fight Killua. He wants to fight Killua, and he laughs about it. He's like, okay, cool. That's not weird at all. One last question. Which one would you want to fight the least? And he goes, oh, well, 405. So he says, question number 2 is, which would you want to fight the least? And Ahsoka's answer is number 405, aka Gon. Which makes sense. Ahsoka doesn't want to fight somebody when it's not their time. And he doesn't think it's Gon's time. So he's like, no. He's like, 99's also up there. But it's interesting how Ahsoka, the way he answers, it's like 2 sides of a coin. He's like, well, I do want to fight Killua. Man, Gon's up there too. But I don't want to fight Gon. But Killua's up there too. So he's like, if you're asking who I want to fight the least at this moment, though, the answer would be 405. So Killua is our honorable mention. So he really just doesn't want to deal with either, but he also wants to deal with them very much. And he's like, oh, Netero says he understands. And I'm like, bullshit, you do. And Ahsoka's like, I should mention the one I want to fight most at this moment is you. I like that Hisoka, this is the one thing, like, I am kind of like, at least on board with the fact that Hisoka's honest, and he's like, yeah, these are kids, but I want to fight you the most, because you're the strongest. I feel like he wants to fight Netero the most because he thinks it's his time, and he needs to kill him. And Netero's just like, oh, well, yep, nice job. Netero just ignores him. He's like, yep, not gonna worry about it, just shoo. Netero ain't gonna open that can of worms. I feel like Netero's dealt with psychopathic people before, and he's like, just don't acknowledge, don't engage. Don't engage with crazy. If you engage with crazy, it's not good. He's like, just get out. And then Hisoka's like, well, son of a bitch. And he says, that old man is too crafty. And then he stops and looks back and says, he left himself so undefended that I lost my edge. And that's the thing. Netero was trying to get him to take the bait. And he did. He did. He resisted a little bit, though. Enough. So then we have Ponzu, or Pockle. We have Pockle. And he says, I'm watching out for 404, which is Kurapika. So then we have Pockle. I don't know if I spelled his name right. He's watching out for Kurapika. Because he says Kurapika, rightfully so, is the most balanced of the people that are remaining. I would agree with that. The most balanced. And he says, I do not want to fight number 44. So he's like, Hisoka is a no. We don't want to fight Hisoka. I don't blame him. He's like, absolutely not. And he says, I doubt I could beat him. At least he's honest. Then we have Killua. Killua says his eye is Gon. Yeah, Killua says he has his eye on Gon. Now, the reason he says he has his eye on Gon is because they're the same age. That's okay. Sure. Sure. We'll go with that. And then he says, I don't want to fight number 53 because I don't think it would be an interesting fight. So he does not want to fight Pakal, number 53, because he doesn't think it would be interesting. He thinks it'd be a boring fight. Huh. That's curious. Then we have old Bodoro. Bodoro has his eye on Hisoka because he thinks he's dangerous. Nope. He's like, I've got my eye on number 44. He has a real presence. He has charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. And then he says he doesn't want to fight. He does not want to fight Gon or Killua because they are children. Well, your reason for not fighting them, Bodoro, is exactly why Hisoka wants to fight them. So that's nice. Jesus. And so then we have 301. So we have 301. Mr. 309. 301. Who does he have his eyes on? His eyes are on Killua. Interesting. His eyes are on Killua of who he wants to fight. And who does he not want to fight? He doesn't want to fight Hisoka because then they can't make out afterwards. He's like, look, I can't. It's going to screw up our relationship. Our situationship will be screwed up if I fight him. Uh-huh. So then Gon. Gon is like, who am I watching out for? Now, here's the thing. That's not what the question was asked. The question is, who do you have your eye on? And Gon interprets that as, who am I watching out for? So he says, Gon says that he's watching out for Hisoka. And then the people he doesn't want to fight the least, his friends. So his friends, which I'm going to put a big heart by, his friends include Kurapika and Killua and Leorio. He doesn't want to fight any of them. That's really sweet. He's like, I can't pick any of them, but I don't want to fight any of them. Then we have Hanzo. Hanzo's like, nope, eye is on, everybody's eyes are on Hisoka. A lot of them. Hisoka, Gon, Kurapika got in there, which is great. Or Killua. He's the most dangerous one here. And 44 is the one that I want to fight the least. Yeah, nobody wants to fight Hisoka. Hisoka's a popular guy. Look at him. So popular. Then we have Kurapika. Kurapika, I like that Kurapika says that they're looking out, they have their eye on Gon for good reasons. They're like, I'm looking out for Gon. He's done some good things. That's great. And then he's like, I'm also looking out for Hisoka for negative reasons. I like that at the same time, Kurapika interpreted the question and answered very diplomatically. They were like, they had a good and a bad. They're like the only one that does that, I'm pretty sure. He's like, I'm giving ample reason and I don't want to fight anyone. So their answer is they want to fight no one. Okay. They don't want to fight anybody. I wonder if Kurapika, I mean, what Kurapika did was answer in the very pageant way. They're like, well, I don't want to fight anybody and I'm looking out for everyone. And Kurapika gave a very pageant answer. They were like, well, for good reasons Gon, for bad reasons Hisoka, and I don't want to fight people. I wonder if Kurapika had a sense to know that their answers were going to impact the final exam. So they were very careful to say who they didn't want to fight and not give an answer. Because I think if they had chose someone, that's who they were going to end up fighting. So not that it ends up mattering because we're going to talk about that. And then Leorio's like, oh, I'm looking out for Gon. But also Leorio is looking out for Gon for good reasons. Leorio and Kurapika are literally his foster parents. They've literally adopted Gon. It's adorable. He's like, I owe him and I hope he passes the exam. But I don't want to fight Gon either. So interestingly enough, Gon, let me see, who picked Hisoka and Hisoka? Hanzo. Hanzo picked Hisoka and Hisoka for negative reasons. And then Leorio picked Gon and Gon for good reasons. So that's interesting. Is that everybody? I think there's one more person. Who's our last person that hasn't chosen someone yet? Right? Or do we have 3, 6? Okay, we have our 9. And so he's like, okay. The results were more lopsided than expected. Then we have this conversation with Kurapika and Gon. Gon gives these looks sometimes, y'all, that no 12-year-old should ever have to give. A 12-year-old should not have to give that look of just being forlorn and sad. And Kurapika, I think, can relate to Gon in that respect. And we're going to talk about that here in a second, but yeah. So then he's like, look what I've got. And they're like, is he serious? I like the Satotes is like, no, he's serious. And they're like, really? So I think it's important that Kurapika talks to Gon about all of this at this point in the episode, because Gon needed an adult to speak to. He needed somebody to confide in. He needed a confidant. And Kurapika is the best person to talk to, because I don't think Killua would be able to talk to Gon about this in a way that would be understanding or empathetic, because Killua is not very empathetic. He's just not. He likes Gon. He thinks Gon is strong and interesting, but he doesn't empathize with Gon. And he's not someone that finds camaraderie. If you notice, when they were all on the airship when we started, Killua was not with them. Killua was off by himself doing who knows what. It was Kurapika, Gon, and Leorio. Killua was not with them. And he clearly got on the airship with them, so why wasn't Killua hanging out? Because Killua was off doing his own thing. And that hasn't diminished Gon and Killua's friendship in any way, but it just shows that Killua has a tendency to isolate and a tendency to be a lone wolf, and Gon is not like that. Gon does crave interactions. Gon's like, I've been alone on that damn island with my aunt for 12 years. I want to have, like, interactions with people, you know? Nothing against Aunt Mito. And I'm also glad that Kurapika is the one to talk to Killua, because Kurapika knows what it feels like to be powerless, to truly be powerless. Like, Leorio's had moments of that happening with him. We've seen that. But Kurapika lost their entire clan. Like, everyone they knew and loved is gone. And so they literally know what it's like. Not only, I feel like, let me say this. Leorio knows what it feels like to be powerless, but Leorio doesn't have a vendetta against someone because of that powerlessness. Kurapika knows what it feels like to be powerless and has a vendetta against the Phantom Troop because of that powerlessness. So he and Gon can kind of really connect with one another and relate to their struggles. And I love that Kurapika could be a damn mediator. He's like, you know, hey, do you want to just talk about it? You know, if you've got anything that's bothering you, we can just talk about it. Like, Kurapika, I have some training in mediation, and Kurapika I would let be a mediator any day. Like, they handle it so well. He's like, you know, you're acting strange and subdued, so I just want to talk about it. Like, I love that. I'm like, thank God Kurapika talks to him, and then Gon reveals his target was Hisoka. And Gon basically explains in perfect detail what ended up happening. And he's like, I was so mad I couldn't do anything against him. And this part here, nobody should make Gon cry like that ever. Gon should never cry like this again. Let's not make this happen, show. I don't want to see Gon like this ever again. No. Mm-mm. But again, Kurapika knows what it feels like, because Kurapika survived. His clan died and he survived. Whether, we don't know if Kurapika had a similar situation with Gon, whereas did the Phantom Troop let him go? Did he escape the Phantom Troop with his life and now he feels similar to Gon? We don't know, but he seems to have a lot of empathy for Gon and understands what he's going through. And Gon just trying to, like, make himself smile despite it all, and he's like, after that, I was pretty miserable and lonely. That makes me so sad, because Gon, like, he's always so bouncy and happy and optimistic, and that moment under the tree back last week in that episode after Hisoka's battle, where he's just, like, has his, like, head down like this, like, you could tell he was just so lonely and sad. And for him to tell Kurapika that just feels so personal. He's like, I felt so helpless. and I wanted company, and I wanted to help someone. This is a big distinction. This is a big distinction. We're going to talk a little bit about some differences between Gon and Killua. Little bit in this. One big distinction between Gon and Killua is when Gon gets scared or feels powerless. When that happens, Gon's instinct is to try and connect with others. That's his instinct. He's like, I wanted to help. I wanted to see somebody. Like, that's so good and that's so powerful. And I'm going to say something in episode 19 about Killua in contrast. Killua, if he was feeling powerless and helpless, would he try to connect with people? Would he try to help someone? No. I think the big thing is that Killua is not about helping. Killua he's been raised by assassins, so he has this mindset of everybody's out for themselves. Whereas Gon is not like that. Gon came from a loving household where everyone helped people, where they helped each other. So that's kind of impacted how he views, his circumstance. So yeah, get this blanket on there. I think that's going to make a difference in the future, honestly. But he's like, I wanted to help someone, I guess. Which connects to his actions in the cave. And he's like, that's why I was looking for you too. And Kurapika, I feel like Kurapika connects so much to Gon in this moment, but also I feel like Kurapika is kind of moved by Gon's selflessness, and he's like, you mean that's how you felt? Like that those words are so wise beyond your years. Like, you're saying things a lot of adults would never admit to or ever, like, think were possible. So he's like, we only made it this far because of you. I love that. It's like Kurapika's like, Gon, I wish you realized how important you are. Like, you may have felt helpless against Hisoka, but you've been so instrumental to us getting this far. You have to know how important you are in this. And that's kind of something too. That's creating a connection. It's creating a bond. It's creating like a familial bond between them. It's like putting yourself out there and helping someone connects you to that person. And it also makes it to where they are likely to help you in the future. My fear with Killua is that Killua doesn't have any attempt to create those bonds. So he's very much a loner. So if something happens, Killua's like, I'm out for myself. But then if Killua's in trouble, who's going to come and help him? That's the thing, And I don't think Killua thinks that anybody would help him, which is the sad part. So yeah, Kurapika's like, we are truly grateful. He's like, and I'd also like to thank you. That little Gon is such a freaking precious bean. I freaking love him. I did not realize how much I would attach myself to Gon. I feel like a lot of people in One Piece, I was this way too with One Piece, and this is a tiny One Piece tangent. When I started reading One Piece like 20 years ago, I wasn't a big Luffy fan, to be honest. It wasn't until a very specific point in the story that I liked Luffy. But it was for reasons like with Gon, it was this similar kind of breakdown and vulnerability that was exposed. And once that happened, I was like, nope, I'm on board the train. I'm on board the Luffy train, and I've been on board since. But with Gon, it's so immediate. Like, you immediately connect with this little precious being, and you just want to, like, protect him and watch and, like, root for him. I freaking love it. Yeah, he's deepened his bonds with his friends. And we get ready for the final phase. So, speaking of the final phase, I've already talked for an hour about this one episode. But it's okay. It's okay. This is going to be a long discussion. Y'all should have known. Y'all should have known. So, let's just dive into this, shall we? Let's get past this intro. So, Netero is so excited about his magical bracket that everyone else looks freaked out about. They're like, are you sure about this? They all look terrified. I'm like, I don't know. I'd be kind of freaked out. And Netero's like, oh, it's fine. We got this. Jesus. So we have the Brady Bunch. The Brady Bunch. We have our Brady Bunch here. I'm just saying, isn't the mom and dad in the Brady Bunch the middle one in the top and bottom, which is Hisoka and Girakker, number 301? Isn't that the case that they're the two parents? I'm just saying. My ship will never be diminished. So we get to this hotel. This Hunter Exam Selection Committee, they have access and own a lot of places, don't they? The upper elite, the upper echelon of society. This hotel is owned and they have their own examinees. So there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 examinees here. This place is all yours until the battles have concluded. And he's like, we're holding a one-on-one tournament where only the last person standing passes. No, the last person standing fails. So the committee is ready to pass 8 people. 8's my lucky number, so I get that. They're ready to pass 8 people. So here's the setup. You have this here, and then we have it goes up here to face this person, and then it goes up here to face that person, and then it goes up here to face this person, and then over here we have we're gonna put this one in the middle, and we have this person faces them, and then whoever wins that one faces this person over here, and then we'll go back up here. What do we see here? See the very top. There's one person left. Okay. Yeah. So then we have this person faces whoever wins this one, and then they're the one that is out. We'll put a little skull and crossbones. Skull and crossbones. They're the person that's out. Yep. Okay. So he's like, you all just need one win to pass. Whoever doesn't get the win, all the winners are removed from the competition. So the losers continue up the bracket. The person who finishes at the top will not pass. It's literally a lip sync Lollapalooza. Does everybody get it? Only one person will fail. Okay. So then they reveal the bracket. We're going to talk about this. So basically we have Karapika. I didn't write that real. We're going to use numbers and then put who the numbers correlate to down below. So we had number 404. 404 and 44 together. I think Netero just did that because they were 4s. And it was like, so we're going to have Hisoka versus Karapika. Then over here, whoever wins that battle has to face Bordero, number 191, which is Bordero. And then whoever wins that match has to face number 403. Be quiet, buddy, which is Leorio. No, I don't think so. So then that's that side. And then over on the other side, which is just absolutely ridiculous, is, you didn't put it up there, bud, sorry, is we have Hanzo. So we have 294, which is Hanzo. And then we have 405, which is Gon. Then we have 53, which was Pakal. Then you have number 99, which is Killua. And then you have 301, which is Mr. G. We'll just put that up there, Mr. G. Yeah. Okay, so assuming after this episode that Gon is out of there, that means Hanzo is going to go up against Pakal. And whoever wins that battle is going to go up against Killua. And whoever wins that battle is going to go up against the other Mr. G guy. And whoever does not win that battle is up here to face the ultimate loser of that. Sure thing. Yeah, sure thing. But, okay. Anyway, buddy, I don't see anything that I have access to give and throw to you. All right, so this is interesting. Setting up this battle here. This is interesting indeed. And, of course, they're like, okay, what do we do? I think what makes this, like, Hisoka and 301 seem unimpressed, right? And Netero's like, impressive, right? Nobody seems really impressed. After all, everyone has at least 2 chances to win. Which is true. Everybody gets at least 2 chances. Leorio gets 2 chances. Number 301 gets 2 chances. So, okay. All right. It seems impressive. But 294 and 405 get 5 chances. Now, why I like that Bordero, the old man who's like the Chad of the group, he's like, well, why do they get so many more chances than we do? And then Netero says, well, it's because of my very intrinsic research that I've been doing. A question that must be on everyone's mind. It was assembled based on performance throughout the entire exam. Now, I think that if you were anybody looking at this chart, you would immediately know something off about this. On the one hand, Leorio and 301, I actually can see why they would be under the least performative of the group. I could see why. I could see why they would. That part would make sense. Leorio struggled the entire fourth exam. 100%. Could not have done it on his own. He also struggled through some of the parts of the trick tower. He lost his round in the trick tower. Did that. He also kind of struggled at the beginning in the first race and was going to give up until Gon and Killua encouraged him to keep going. So Leorio having only one shot before he's in the final round, that makes sense to me. I get that. Then you have 301. 301, one thing they don't talk about in this is the people you killed, did that impact where you were in the positioning? You killing someone, did it impact anything? Because 301 killed people, for sure. Hisoka killed people, for sure. Leorio did not. Kurapika did not, but we're going to talk about that in a second. We don't know anything about Bordero at all. Pakal did not, to our knowledge. Killua did. 301 did. Leorio didn't, but he struggled a lot. So it makes sense why he's there. But 301 killed people. And also, 301 got the badges and then just pieced out for 7 days. Didn't do anything. So if they determined that as part of the performance, then that could have been why they put them at the last place with Leorio. Killua is placed in the second to last place alongside with Bordero, essentially, for only getting like a few chances. Like they're one leg up. No, they're the same as Bordero, and Killua gets mad about it. But Killua did kill somebody, and we're going to talk about it. Your performance, and then Killua gets very upset. He's like, well, wait, what do you mean? He's like, that doesn't sound right. He's like, can you explain how you scored our performances? Killua wants to see the rubric. He's like, show me the rubric. Show me the receipts. And then Netero goes, no. That part threw me off. I was like, oh my God. Because Killua was like, I want to see your scoring rubric. I want to know how you did this fairly. And Netero was like, I didn't do it fairly, so I'm not telling you, no. Because what I was going to point out is, yeah, if you told me that Hanzo and Gon were based on their performances, we'll talk about it with Gon, but I could believe that. But the thing that gets me is Hisoka versus Kurapika. That part to me does not make sense because Kurapika said in their part that, Kurapika said that they didn't want to fight anybody. And Hisoka was like, well, I don't want to fight Gon or Killua. So maybe Hisoka being willing to fight everybody else and Kurapika wanting to fight no one, maybe he just based it off of that. But you cannot tell me that Hisoka, and maybe Hisoka killing people made a difference in it as well. But I just feel like Netero is baiting people. He is baiting Killua. I really think he is. I think that Netero, especially with this response of saying that like he's not going to tell Killua his scoring rubric, I feel as if he is kind of baiting Killua like he was baiting Hisoka earlier. And I think Killua has taken the bait. I really do. Because he's like, no, I'm not going to tell you. And he's like, why not? And he just laughs and says, your scores are classified information. Those scores ain't nowhere. There are no scores. He just did it randomly to piss people off. I guarantee it. He's like, I can't tell you everything. He's like, but I'll explain our methods. Sure, Jan. So he says he bases it off of, first, we considered 3 major criteria. Physical strength. So here's the criteria. He based it off of physical strength, mental strength, which those make sense, sure. And then the third reason is overall impression. Overall impression. Which is going to be the one that counts the most. It's going to be the one that counts the most. Because he's going to be like, well, you could be physically strong. You can be mentally strong, but how's your impression? What does it say to us as the council? For physical strength, we used an aggregate of agility and flexibility and endurance and perception. So we used flexibility, we used endurance, and we used perception. So basically, did you pass the first 4 phases? If you did, then you probably did really well in this category. And he says, then for the mental strength, we used resilience, and we used adaptability, judgment, and creativity. So are you resilient? Are you adaptable? Are you creative? What is your judgment like? So we based it off that as well. But those are all, again, I would argue that every person in this exam taking it had all 8 of these qualities. They all had to be flexible, adaptable, enduring. They all had to have resilience, adaptability, creativity, whatever. It's like those are all things that all 9 of them had to possess to get this far. So then, after that, the only information is only used as a reference point. After all, you were strong enough to advance to the final phase. So yeah, those are all assumed. Those are all assumed things. However, we are most concerned with your overall impression. And that's where this gets so intriguing. And like the BS-o-meter is going off the watch. Because he's like, these refer to intangible factors that are not previously mentioned. Those are very subjective. Intangible factors. So that's all just like, we're going to put intangible factors that are put on here. Yeah. And everybody's just kind of like, what? He's like, you should consider this an evaluation of your potential as a hunter. And then he looks square at Killua. So they say it is your potential as a hunter is a big old factor in this. Yeah. So that's what we're going to go back to this chart with. And we incorporated the opinions of your peers. That part gets a little shaky because the opinions of the peers, Killua was up there with Gon and Hisoka. So I feel like the opinions of the peers is not as big of a factor as the potential as a hunter. He just includes that as a buffer to be like, oh, well, and what everybody else said about you. Go ask them later. That was our process. And Killua doesn't get it. Killua is like, well, based on my performance, I should be ranked higher. But I'm like, you missed everything. You missed what he's saying. Netero doesn't care how strong or smart you are. He cares if you're going to fit in with the organization correctly and what they idealize as. So, for example, Hanzo seems pretty by the book. He was raised by these ninjas. He has this specific style of martial arts skills, but Hanzo is also pretty like practical. He's like he's not a risky choice. If I was a hunter examiner and I looked at Hanzo, I'd be like, oh, he's just gonna be a stereotypical hunter. He's not gonna go off the grain. He's not gonna go off the grid. He's not gonna do anything extreme. He's just doing things for whatever reason he has his agenda, and that's it. We don't have to worry about him. And I'm not saying the association is looking for a bunch of yes men or yes women or yes thems, but I feel like the overall impression is how much of a threat are you going to be to us? Because they establish that the hunters are rivals amongst themselves. So why would you choose someone to be a hunter that could hurt you and be a threat to you? You wouldn't. So when it comes to Gon, yeah, Gon has a ton of potential. And he's super strong. But his overall impression has been, this is a very genuine, sincere person who is willing to help us. And as a hunter, he just seems like a Boy Scout. I think he'll do great. He'll do great old things. He's giving me like Jace Talus vibes from Arcane, where the Hunter Association is like, he could do a lot of things good for us, you know? And that's just what they think. Then you have Pockle. Pockle and Bodero, I think, are in the same playing field. They're like, they're just run-of-the-mill hunters. They're not going to be anything crazy. Nothing we have to worry about. They're kind of like Hanzo, but maybe not as talented as Hanzo, right? Then you have Kurapika. I feel like Kurapika is maybe on Netero's radar because Kurapika is someone targeted by other hunters. Also, the fact that Kurapika has this strong sense of justice. And I think Kurapika's answer of I don't want to fight anyone is sending Netero's radars a flare. Because he's like, what do you mean you don't want to fight somebody? You're going to have to fight somebody. Hunters are going to have to fight people. That's just the nature of being a hunter. So that might have influenced where they put Kurapika. Then Leorio, I don't think they have much faith in Leorio being a hunter based on his performance. So that's just my views. We all know Leorio is better than that, but I think that's where Netero stands. So he's like, we'll just put him here. And if he doesn't pass, he doesn't pass. Whatever. But he won't die, right? Then you have Ahsoka and 301 and Killua. I think that Netero knows that Ahsoka and 301 are becoming hunters for very specific reasons. They both seem like they're tied to mercenary work. They both seem like they're tied to wanting to hurt people and kill people. But 301 and Ahsoka also seem to know a little bit of decorum, where even though they're unhinged, they know what they can and can't say in front of Netero, and they also value their agendas enough that they're going to stay in line with the hunter organization because they don't want to lose those privileges. You know, Hisoka's like, I want the hunter badge to be able to do whatever I want and kill whoever I want within the parameters of the organization. But Hisoka's not out here saying, I'm going to dismantle the organization and do whatever I want. He's like, I'm going to act within your rules, but that's why I'm here, is because your rules will benefit me. And I think 301 is the same way. So even though they are threatening to the organization, they're not going to go against the organization's structure. Killua, I think, is being targeted by Netero because Killua is a threat. Killua does not have an agenda. Killua does not have an agenda of, I'm going to act within the organization's parameters to do X, Y, and Z. Killua is just getting the badge for funsies. But he also is not charismatic and a Boy Scout like Gon. He also does not seem like a yes person, and he is kind of a loose cannon. And I think Netero is trying to bait Killua because he knows Killua is a threat. Because Killua does not care about the organization and what it does. He just wants that badge, and he's somebody that could possibly go rogue, and the organization won't be able to control him. I don't think the organization can control 301 or Hisoka, but I think the organization can get Hisoka and 301 to act within the parameters of the organization because of what they offer. Killua doesn't care what they offer. So I feel like he's baiting Killua. I really do. I think he's baiting him. He's like, well, I should be higher based on this. And it's like, Killua, you're not thinking of the big picture. You're not. And in this moment, there is definitely with Killua a sense that Killua might have a slight inferiority complex. And that is like, this is the first time we've seen a crack in the armor of Killua, because Killua has always been so calm and collected and cool, and I'm better than everybody else. This is the first time that Killua was like, well, what do you mean I wasn't number one? I'm always number one. Aren't I supposed to be at the top? Like, this is the first time Killua has had like a moment of vulnerability. There's been like a crack. It was a face crack moment for sure, where Killua was not, his potential as something was put down. Do I have less potential than Gon? And that's why he's been comparing himself this whole time to say, I'm equal to Gon. Gon and I are on the same level. And now Gon's like being placed ahead of him, and Killua doesn't like it. He's like, but we're the same, right? Interesting. So the rules are simple. You can use weapons. Also, can we talk about how caked up 301 is? Wouldn't expect it, but here we are. That booty. No cheating. You can use weapons. If your opponent admits defeat, you win. However, if you kill your opponent, then you'll be immediately disqualified. All the remaining applicants will pass and the exam will end. Yep. Are we clear? Mm-hmm. You can tell Killua was like, I can't kill anybody? Okay. And here's my problem. My fear about Killua is that Killua has, for the length of this competition, when his back's up against the wall, there has been the option to kill someone. Always. Up until then. The first exam, sure, they could kill somebody. Hisoka ripped the arms off of somebody. So yeah, you could do that. Second exam, nobody died, but some people died in the spider pit, but yeah, you could have technically knocked somebody off if you wanted to. That one was fine. In the trick tower, though, Killua killed someone. Without even thinking. Just did it. Done. In the forest, Killua didn't kill the brothers, but he could have. He probably thought about it. But he didn't. I had talked last week about him being influenced by Gon, but the option for Killua to have an easy out when he's backed into a corner has always been there. And he's used to being an assassin, and killing is like their bread and butter. So in this sense, in this game, this is really putting some strain, because here's the thing. Here's the problem. If he goes up against, let's say Hanzo fights Pakal. I think Hanzo will win against Pakal. I think he will. So that leaves Pakal. If Pakal goes up against Killua, then it's like, okay, Pakal's gonna have to go up against Killua. What are we gonna do with that? How are we gonna do that? I would imagine Killua would win, but how does that work? How does that work? I don't know. He would have to torture Pakal to surrender. Now, here's the thing. Hanzo has demonstrated that you can torture someone as long as you don't kill them, and then they'll admit defeat. I think Pakal is cautious enough. I don't know, though. I don't know where, this is the big mystery part. If Killua faces Pakal, what will happen? I don't think Pakal dies. I don't think Hanzo dies. But maybe we should save that for spoiler corner, but I don't think they do. So I don't know what we do with that. This is a big old question mark. Up against 301, though, I don't know. 301's scary. 301 seems unpredictable. I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know. Hisoka versus Kurapika. I think that Kurapika will immediately give up. I think Kurapika will give up instantly and will say, nope, Hisoka, you win. We're good. I think he will instantly. Then I think that Kurapika will go up against Bodero. And I think that Bodero, I think Kurapika will probably win against Bodero, so it's like Bodero versus Leorio. I hope that Leorio wins. I hope Leorio wins. So that would leave Bodero to go up against, for some reason, I don't know if Bodero wins or not. And the only reason I think Bodero might lose is because he looks like a lot like Netero. And I don't think Tagashi's going to leave two guys that look similar in the same series. So, my vote is that Bodero gets booted out, but I don't know how. Or if Bodero doesn't get booted out, then it's 301, but then that leaves Killua. There's a big old question mark by Killua. There's a big old question mark. But Killua has always had killing as his fail-safe. And if he can't do it in this battle system, then how is that going to set things up? I don't know. I mean, he could torture. Here's the thing, what he could do is Killua could torture Pakal to the point where he gives up. But then that means Killua instantly wins to the next round. So maybe that'll happen. Maybe that will go down. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know. Or, I don't know. We're going to talk about the spoiler corner. We're going to wait for the spoiler corner. So yeah, everybody gets geared up. And so we have this one guy versus Hanzo right off the bat. And so everybody's just waiting. He's like, oh, what's his name? Is like Masta. Masta is our referee. And Hanzo's like, oh yeah, you were tailing me during the 4th phase. And Gon's like, was this really a thing? He's like, oh yeah, you noticed. He's like, naturally. Each applicant was assigned an examiner for the 4th phase. And Gon's like, I didn't see any of this. If that is the case, again, those examiners know what Gon is capable of. They know his qualities. They know his sincerity and his authenticness. Whereas they know Killua was just biding his time and doing whatevers. So anyway, so we start this. He looks tough, but we should be even. Gon is so straightforward. This is definitely a lesson for Gon. And I know Gon ends up winning because he's so persistent and doesn't give up. However, Gon suffers. Like, he breaks his arm because of it. He gets the shit kicked out of him because of it. I'm like, Gon learns the hard way that... I hope that Gon learns from this that he's going to have some work to do. Because Gon, the only reason he won is because Hanzo just got tired. And Hanzo was not willing to kill him and sacrifice his chances. He just didn't want that to happen. However, in the real world, there will be people you're up against that will immediately kill you. And so Gon is going to have to toughen up and get some street smarts about him. Otherwise, if this had been a real battle, Hanzo could have killed him, I think, kind of easily, right? But yeah, and then Hanzo's really tough. This showed just how strong Hanzo is. Like, I did not have a lot of belief in Hanzo, but then once he faced Gon, I was like, oh no, Hanzo actually can hold his own. Okay, good to know. And he's like, you did well for a kid. I'm like, you're 18. You're still a kid. I don't know. Apparently 17 is the cutoff of when your hormones kick in, because like Hanzo and Leorio turned 18 and shot up like freaking weeds and then became grown-ass men, whereas Kurapika's like, not there yet. But you can also tell, I love that Leorio and Kurapika, instant parent concern. Instant parental concern. Hisoka's like, well, shit. Netero's like, well, shit. I feel like Netero and Hisoka both are like, they both want Gon to pass. Here's the thing. If they want you to pass, you will pass. They pitted Gon up against Hanzo because I think they've watched Hanzo and know how he acts. And they knew Gon would be a tough opponent for him through sheer dexterity. So I think that Netero wants Gon to pass. For whatever reason, whatever his alternate agenda is, he wants him to pass. Whether he knows Jing or not, I don't know that, but he wants him to pass. And Hisoka wants him to pass because he's like, what a waste it would be for you not to pass this soon. And then this line got me. Killua wasn't concerned about Gon. Killua wasn't saying, oh man, Gon should have dodged that. Gon could have easily dodged that had it been earlier on in the match. He didn't say any of that. Killua says, I could have dodged that attack easily. Killua's like, if that had been me, I would have already been past it. That's crazy. Because Killua is so in his head about being put under Gon in terms of performance that he is not thinking of Gon as his friend. He's thinking of Gon as competition. And I think that's what Netero is trying to do, is get in his head. And get him to think that way. Because that is crazy. I was like, Killua, don't do that, my dear. It's like I could have dodged that attack easily. I felt so bad for Gon during this. This was rough. I did not expect tonight to sit down with you all, have a nice little sushi corgi blanket, a cup of coffee, and watch child abuse. I didn't come here for that, but here we are. This was hard. And then, like, just watching Hanzo be like, oh, you must feel terrible, and he kept smacking him and hitting him. And he's like, no, I'm not giving up. He's like, if you surrender now, you'll be in decent shape for the next fight. But Gon is not going to give up. And I like that Minchi kind of realizes it. She's like, look, these attendees, these finalists have all had to get this far with the mindset of we're not giving up. So now you put them against each other in a situation where giving up is not a bad option, and they're not going to want to do it, right? And poor Leorio and Killua, they're like, if you were in Gon's position, would you surrender? And he's like, well, of course not. Gon feels the same way. And I like the Kurapika's like, you're contradicting yourself. He's like, there's no other choice. Kurapika and Leorio being Gon's foster parents, it gets me every time. But yeah, he's like, the chairman's nasty streak is a class all its own. They're unlikely to simply surrender. This goes beyond a rather peculiar fight. Yeah, Netero is nasty. Netero is dirty for this. That kid's in danger. And Netero just not concerned. He's like, he'll be fine. I don't know. It's kind of like, it's giving me the vibes. There's been some sports anime that I've watched where the main protagonist of the sports anime has like suffered an injury and they should really get off the court or they should really get out of the game. But the coach is like, I mean, this is the finals. These are the finals. Are you going to give up now? Are you going to give up now? I mean, yeah, sure, your career after this game could be thrown away forever, but are you going to give up now? Why? It's the finals. How could you? Rather than do like what a coach should do and be like, yeah, you need to think of your future. No, that's not how this Hunters organization works. That's not how Netero works. No. So, anyway, so we have them facing off against each other. The fact that there's blood and vomit on the ground against Gon is just Oh, it makes me so sad. No, it makes me so sad. Yeah. And Paco's like, it's been 3 hours. This kid's been beat for 3 hours. There's nothing left for him to vomit. I really like this shot. This shot's amazing. This shot of both 301 and Hisoka watching Gon. There's something in Hisoka's eyes in this shot that really gets to me. I feel like Hisoka is just like 301 looks amused. 301's like, can you believe this match has gone on this long? Oh my god, can you believe Hisoka? Hisoka looks like he wants to walk over and rip Hanzo's throat out. And I don't think it's because he cares about Gon. I think it's because he wants to fight Gon in the future. And it's like if you're an eagle and you're watching a hawk prey with a mouse and you're like, that's my mouse. Like, he wants to take it away from Hanzo. That's a really good shot. I kind of love that, actually. Yeah. But he's like, I'm going to break his arm. And Leorio offers to fight in his place because Leorio is just that kind of guy. But they're like, no, you can't fight in each other's place. If you try to... And the thing is, if you try to step in and help, they're not going to disqualify you. They're going to disqualify the person you're trying to help, which would defeat the whole purpose of you stepping in. So that's so crazy. Nope. And then Gon's like, it's fine. This is nothing. I can still fight. Bless his heart. This kid. Bless his heart. And Hanzo's just like, really? This kid's taking this beating again? And he just trips him over. And then says he's going to break his arm. Now, in that moment, Hisoka's like, he's actually going to do it. Like, Hisoka knows he's going to do it. Leorio's terrified. Kurapika's mad. Killua is not showing emotion. Killua is just like, well, I wouldn't be getting my arm broken. You could just tell he's thinking that. I'm like, I feel kind of let down by Killua in this moment because he should be concerned for his friend and instead he's being competitive. But there is some unpacked trauma there that we are not getting to in this episode, but there's some unpacked trauma there. We're going to talk about it in the spoiler corner. He's like, I'm not joking around. I really gained some respect for Hanzo in this episode because he was a man of his word. And he broke his arm. He broke this 12-year-old's arm. Aunt Mito, if she found out, I wonder if that had been Gon's letter home, she'd been like, where is he? That is crazy. And Paco's like, he actually did it. He really broke his arm. And Killua looks unimpressed. And he's like, there you go. You can't use your left arm anymore. I swear, whether it's Dragon Ball Z or this series, you break a left arm and it's over. I love Leorio's face here. Leorio and Kurapika, their parental faces. Leorio's like, I'll kill him. He's like, how dare he break his arm? I will slaughter him. And he's like, Kurapika, don't hold me back. And Kurapika's like, you speak for yourself. Kurapika's like, I'm gonna go. I'm not holding you back. I was like, oh! I love these parents. I love these parents for Gon. They were ready to throw the frick down. So then Hanzo gives us some backstory. He says, he gives a sudden backstory, which you would be like, how is he going to lose? He's like, I'm from the Shinobi, a clan of covert agents. He's like, I've been training for 18 years under this harsh conditions to learn Ninpo. He's like, by the time I was your age, I was already killing a man. And then Killua just goes, that's something to brag about. I'm like, Killua, priorities. Sure, you've killed somebody when you were like 5, Killua. Priorities. He's like, at this point in time, you cannot defeat me in combat. So admit defeat. And then Gon, I love that Gon kicks him. He's like, nope, and knocks him out. He's like, that hurt. And he's like, my head cleared a bit after all the pain and that long explanation. Gon is a different breed. He's a different breed altogether. But he's like, I finally got clear enough to kick you. And then I love that Leorio is every soccer dad. He's like, kick him while he's down, Gon. Come on. And I love Kurapika's like response where he's like, again, soccer dad, soccer mom. Love both of them. They are amazing. Love them together. He's like, if you're 18, you're only 6 years older than I am. Besides, this isn't a battle of who's stronger. It's who's willing to surrender first. Gon gets the rules. He gets what this is. This is not a battle of strength and performance. That's where Killua is getting in his head. Killua thinks that this is all about who is the strongest. That's not what this is. No. It's a game of who can be basically more stubborn. Who's going to give up last? Because if you think about it, in the hunter organization, all these hunters, doesn't matter if they're stronger than one another. It matters who's more resilient. Who's willing to like last it out and tough it out longer. That's who's going to win. And that's kind of what they're testing. They're like, you can be the strongest person in the world. There's always going to be somebody stronger than you. You can be the smartest person in the world. There's always going to be somebody smarter than you. But if you're willing to sacrifice everything, it's very cultish. It's very cultish. They're like, if you're willing to sacrifice everything for us, then you can last. You can last. It's very cultish. Just a wee bit. It's who's going to surrender first. He's like, I'm not going to surrender. I like that Hanzo's like, I let you kick me on purpose. And then I love that Leorio immediately says liar. It's great. And he's like, well, this is an ultimatum. And then he says that he's going to like, he takes the knife out and he's going to cut off his legs. But then Gon, I love that Gon immediately, he's like, I won't accept that. He has his little badger face. I want to find the little screenshot of his badger face. He's like, are you going to surrender? And I love that Gon, he has the Leslie Knope from Parks and Rec, little badger face. He's like, no. What does he say there? He says, I cannot accept that. I won't accept it. And I love that the four, like, I love the exam people are like, what? And then they're all like, what? And then I love Hisoka 301 and Botaro are like, what? And they're like, excuse me. We don't see Killua, though. When you go back there, you don't see Killua. You just saw the three of them. That's interesting. We did not see Killua in the expression of surprise. That's interesting. I want to go back and see if we saw him. No, he wasn't there. We didn't see Killua's reaction. I don't want my legs cut off, and I don't want to surrender. He's like, well, then let's find a different way to fight. Killua wasn't included in that reaction, which is interesting to me. Because I think this is what lightened the mood for everybody else, especially when Gon's like, let's just find a different way. He's like, this is all a game. Everything that the organization works in is a game. Essentially, it's all, their society is a game. And it's very much like the rat race that we all know with our own society. And so Gon's like, I want to keep playing the game, so how can we play it? That's essentially what the organization wants you to do. They don't want you to kill every other hunter, because then there's no hunters. Then your society doesn't exist anymore. Your society in this world is based on your hunter organization. And they're elites who get to do whatever they want. But if you don't have them anymore, you don't have the basis of your society. So what do you do then? Killua is a threat to that, because Killua is like, oh, I could kill all these people. And it wouldn't matter. Gon doesn't want to kill anybody. He's like, let's just find a way to play the game. That's exactly what they want. Like, Gon is the ideal hunter for them. He's like, do you understand your own situation? And I like that Leorio and Kurapika are speechless. Hisoka just laughs because he's like, well, of course this kid would do that. And him and Botaro just laugh because they're like, oh, the youth, right? He's like, I like that Botaro says, excuse me. That was really cute. He's like, you don't get to make demands. I'm going to seriously cut off your legs. And he's like, but if you did that, I'd bleed to death. And then you'd be disqualified. He's like, see, so let's think of a better way. That's the type of hunter that they want to pass. And Kurapika's like, okay, Gon's all right now. He'll be fine. He's taken control. And Leorio's like, he's so self-centered. I like that they're both like, I wonder who he gets it from. Yeah, he succeeded in convincing. And everybody, they're like, even 301 is smiling. They're just like, oh, this kid. Just, that's the game. That's the old game we're playing. Everybody wants to win. But Killua doesn't get it. He's like, what is this? The situation hasn't changed. He's like, Gon hasn't gotten stronger than his opponent. His arm is still broken. Like, everybody's having this, like, light mood. And Killua's like, the game is still on. Like, what? Nothing's changed. Why y'all getting lighter? Why is the brutal atmosphere before suddenly a lot lighter than it was? Yeah. And that's because of Gon. And his personality and his attitude and his perseverance. Mm-hmm. And then when he sticks the, like, sword up to... I like it turns purple when it gets really dire. If you die, you'll never get another chance. I could kill you here. I just need to try again next year. But Gon's whole thing is he's like, and that's when Killua says he's right. You can try all you want to talk your way. Killua does not think the talk no jutsu is going to work, but he has not seen many shonen before. He's like, you can try to talk your way out, but he's far stronger than you. This isn't something you can neutralize on the spot. But it all comes down to power. That's the thing. That's it. That's it. To Killua, it's all about power. Because as an assassin, that's probably what he's been trained to believe. It's all down to power. Or at least that's his mantra within the assassin family he's been born into. But for Gon, it's not about power. It's about it's about passion. It's passion over power. Is essentially, he's like, I believe in it more. I have more conviction, so I'm going to get it done. And again, for the Hunter organization, they probably prefer passion over power because it's easier for them to manage. Yep. And I like that he says, I'm going to find my dad. And so he's like, you try again next year. And he's like, are you willing to die for your pride? And I like that Gon's like, this isn't about my pride. This is about I'm going to find my dad. Meanwhile, the other hunters are like, is that the guy that went out for the cigarettes? I'm going to find my dad. He's like, I'm not doing this for my own pride. I'm doing this to find my father. And when he says that, I think that he mentioned he was going to find his dad, but Leorio and Kurapika and Killua all have a reaction to that. And he's like, my dad is a hunter. And I'm going to become a hunter and find him. Yep. And so he says, I feel like if I didn't do this now, if I quit now, I believe that I'll find him one day. But if I give up now, I'm never going to have that chance. So I'm not going to give up and I won't surrender. And he's like, well, then you'll die if you don't yield. And he's like, he defies reason. He's like, fine, you win. Which is kind of like just baffling to everybody there because Hanzo's like, I'm tired of this. I don't want to kill this kid. I don't want to get disqualified. He's like, it's not worth it. I'll get somebody else to surrender. And Killua is just like, his mind is blown. Killua's like, but Gon wasn't as strong as him. So why did he win? To Killua, this makes no sense. He's like, this is defying all logic to me on how this game should be played. He's like, I can't kill you. But I can't think of a way to make you surrender. Yep, that makes the title can't win, can't lose. All the better. I'll take this loss and my chances in the next battle. And of course, because Gon is freaking Goku from Dragon Ball Z, he's like, well, no, let's keep playing. Can't you think of something? And he's like, no. And he just knocks him out. He's like, we have to think of a way to settle the fight. And he's like, no. He's like, I knew you say that. There's no point. He's like, I don't want to win like this. Let's work together and figure it out. In other words, I've already given up on this match, but you want me to try to win again. And determine a victory that'll make you feel good about it. And he's like, yes. He's like, you just don't want to feel like you lucked out. And he's like, forget that. He's like, let's move on. But I want to tell the executive committee something first. And this is the thing. He's like, when he wakes up, he'll probably refuse his passing judgment because he's a stubborn boy, as we've seen. Only one person will fail this round, right? If Gon fails, wouldn't that make the rest of our fights meaningless? It would. I like that Leorio looks over to Kurapika being like, you gonna explain that to me? I love that he looks over to Kurapika being like, hey, you guys want to explain what he just said? So, like, basically, Gon's knocked out. So when he wakes up, if he chooses to not pass, then them all doing all these fights was completely pointless. And but by that point, somebody might have already failed. So that's a good point to bring up. And Kurapika's like, yeah. And Ahsoka's like, well, he'll probably, it's poor Gon with the little X's over his eyes. Poor Gon. His victory's been assured following Hanzo's confession. The final phase to determine the single failing applicant, has only just begun. Yep. Oh, buddy, I know I've talked for like nearly 2 hours already. Oh my God. This episode said a lot to talk about. I have a spoiler corner where I want to talk about things. So we're going to go back to that. But anyway. Before we get to the spoiler corner though, thank you all for listening this far. This has been such a doozy of an episode set. I'm really excited about what's to come. But if you're not sticking around for the spoiler corner, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'm excited to hear your comments down below about episodes 18 and 19 of Hunter x Hunter. So, spoiler corner time. Sorry it took so long to get here. Like I said, I'm going to go back to episode 18 with you all. I did not remember how we got out of the cave. There are some moments that are coming back to me now, like the Celine Dion song. I do, in my mind, remember Gon coming out of the cave with them, but I thought it was because of an explosion. It was because of the sleeping gas. My memory is all corrected from that point on. I forgot about the examiners watching them and the tracking devices, so there's that. For some reason, I thought Ponzu passed. I don't know why. In my mind, I thought Ponzu passed the exam, but I am incorrect on that. I also thought Monkey Man passed the exam, so maybe we see their characters later in the show. They just aren't hunters. So maybe that's the case. I don't know. We'll see how that works. But also, Gon is a lot. He is such a strong guy. It's kind of crazy. I like Ponzu's character a lot. We don't get a lot of female characters in Hunter x Hunter, but she's a really good character, right? Also, I felt bad for Leorio. He just had a rough go in this round. I'm glad Kurapika was like, Kurapika's observations and just noticing a lot with Gon is so good. I can't tell you how excited I am for the Phantom Troop arc. When we get to the Phantom Troop arc, it's going to be so good, but we're so far away, I feel, from that. Yeah. Look, there are two things that I remember. I mean, I just vaguely remember loving the Phantom Troop arc, and I know some characters from it. I know there are certain moments in that specific arc that I remember that I'm really looking forward to, because that's the arc that made me go, oh, okay. Actually, the arc that made me go, oh, okay, is the one in the damn tower that we're not getting yet. And I'm like, ah! Okay, but here's the thing. I started to remember some things as episode 19 was going on. I was like, oh, I think I remember what happens, but we'll talk about it in a second. So the tower matches I thought were the final phase. They are not. Don't know how we're getting to those. We'll find out. But I really like the tower matches, and I really like the Phantom Troop, and I think the Phantom Troop's after those. So those are my favorites about where I'm at. But yeah, I'm really excited for Kurapika and the Phantom Troop. That's going to be so much fun. I cannot wait for that. But anyway, the other thing is, I thought in this arc we would get Ahsoka like naked in front of Gon and Killua. I know I remembered seeing it. I know I've seen it. I know my mind is not going crazy. I've seen that happen, but don't tell me it'll happen in the future, I guess. Down the road, I guess. I'm like, those are the two moments, the tower matches and Ahsoka naked in front of Gon and Killua. Those are the two things that like my brain latched onto from this series watching 5 years ago. I don't remember much else about those moments around them, but we'll get to it. But some things did come back to me in this episode set that I want to talk about you with spoilers. So yeah, I did not remember Gon getting the antidote, any of that stuff there. Where is some stuff that I want to go to? I thought Ponzu ended up winning, but they did not. I want to talk about, here's something. With Hisoka and then when they go back to the boats, I guess that Killua really does not know that 301 is their brother. I guess they really don't know. I am so excited to see the reveal when Killua figures out that that's their brother. I'm so hyped. It's gonna be happening in this arc, I feel. It's gonna be happening coming up, I feel, because we're gonna talk about this whole deal in a second. I'm like, oh. But if Killua knew, he would have already said something. Because when they did the interviews, I've been trying to remember if Killua knows that 301 is their brother, is that he's Illumini, Illuminati, I think he's Illumi. I've been trying to remember, And the moment they did the interview and Killua said Gon and then he didn't want to fight number 53, I was like, okay, he doesn't know. He doesn't know is his brother. Because otherwise I think he would have mentioned him in passing, at least during the interview, because it was just him and Netero. I know Pakal lives past this arc. I don't think Pakal fails, but I can't remember. Hanzo passes. I like Hanzo's character really grew on me in episode 19. I had given Hanzo a hard time calling him Tien Shan from Dragon Ball Z, but no, he stands on his own. I really like Hanzo after this last episode. Botaro, I don't remember Botaro at all. I think I can't remember him. So here's the thing. We're going to talk about it here in just a hot second. But yeah, Killua is being tested for sure by this entire system. Hisoka gets more and more interesting to me. And what I wanted to say in this thing about why he wanted to become a hunter, I was expecting him to talk about having the pass to move from country to country, because I believe Hisoka is part of the Phantom Troop. And so I think that he's part of that troop and he wants the pass to be able to do whatever he wants. Also, if he needs to get away from the Phantom Troop, he can get away from them. But when he said the ability to kill somebody and not be like arrested for it, it was like, okay, that's another thing there. Also, the idea of them just not being able to be arrested because they killed people and then you had a whole trick tower full of inmates who were wanted for murder is just wrap your mind around it. Wrap your mind around it. So yeah, I honestly, is it bad I want Hisoka versus Netero? Is it bad I want them to fight? But I don't think Hisoka would win. I think Netero would win. I think Netero is just such a baddie and does not let on how strong he is. And Hisoka can kind of sense part of it. This part here, though, he said 405's on my radar, but it's 99 I'm keeping my eye on. I would love to take him on one day. He wants to take him on one day because he's a potential brother-in-law. He's Illuminai's brother. So he's just like, oh, I want to take on Illuminai's brother and just get him out of the way, you know. He keep one less person to worry about for the family heirlooms. I'm like, what? So, yeah. I feel like Hisoka also realizes that Killua is dangerous and has a lot of potential. But unlike Gon, who's like very pure potential, he's like, no, let's get this snake out of the garden. Like, Hisoka's trying to kill his in-laws. I was like, oh my God, why? So then, of course, you had, when we get to Illuminai, when we have him and his, he says the one he's got his eye on is his brother. Of course it is. Of course it is. And then the one that he doesn't want to fight is the guy he's banging behind the scenes. So I'm like, I just hope that the Examiner watching Hisoka and Illuminai's conversation when he dug the hole is like, okay. So yeah. So again, glad that Kurapika and Gon had this conversation. It was really well needed. I like that a lot. I like that Kurapika and Gon are developing this like friendship. It also is kind of foreshadowing of Kurapika having the Phantom Troop arc, because Kurapika is kind of the main character of that arc, if I'm remembering correctly. And so it felt like this was a moment to kind of establish Kurapika is going to have a more prominent role later on, especially with the conversation where they connect with Gon. Gonna have a lot more to do later on. Just saying. So yeah, then I want to talk about episode 19. Oh, the setup, y'all. The setup of these 9. Let me tell you. I don't know if there's any significance to how everybody is put in order here, except I wonder if we had, what was our number? Oh, those are their numbers, 4034. I thought they were in order there. Damn it, from the start. No, it's just their numbers behind them. I was trying to see if there was like a number order that they were in, but there is not. Although you have Gon, and then you have Kurapika and Hisoka are facing each other, and they're going to fight each other later on. Leorio and Budero are facing the same way, and they're going to fight later on. Gon is facing away from everybody. He's out. And then Hanzo's in the center, and Pakal is next to him. So maybe Pakal is going to fight him next. So then Kurapika, we don't know what he's going to do. And then 301 is looking the other way too. But Kurapika and Illuminai are facing opposite ways. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. I was trying to see if it was going to give me any clues. Here's what I do remember. I think what I can't wrap my head around, I think that Killua is the one that doesn't pass. And I think they were setting it up this episode because Killua's whole thing is about strength and about power, but that's not what this game is. And if you try to just rely on that, you're gonna probably kill somebody, and then it's not gonna work out. So you can't do that. So here's my thing. I think Killua is the one that loses. It's either Killua or Bordero. But my issue is I can't wrap my mind around how Killua gets to there. Unless Killua kills Pakal, but I don't think that's what's happened because they have to find out about their brother. So that means if they find out about their brother, that means they have to that means that Killua has to get past Pakal, and in doing so faces 301. Now, what happens after that? I don't know. Because Illumini doesn't die. I don't think Illumini dies. So I don't think that that's the case. So what do we do then? Illumini doesn't die. So if Illumini doesn't die, then how does Killua get kicked out of the game? I don't remember. But I think that Killua gets kicked. I'm trying to remember things that happen from the series that I know. The tower battles happen. I don't remember exactly the order of everything here. The tower battles happen. They see Hisoka naked somewhere in a marsh. Where we're going to be in a marsh again, I don't know, but they're going to see him again in the marsh. And the other thing is we have to meet Killua's family. There's a butler. She's great. There's a butler. She has braids. I remember her. She's awesome. Love her. There's a butler character that's a childhood friend. There are multiple siblings to the Killua family, and the dad and the mom. But when do we meet them? Why do we meet them? I don't remember, but I think maybe for some reason in my head, I'm like, does Killua end up being the one that gets knocked out and Gon convinces Netero to let him in for some reason? How does that work? I don't remember. Maybe we'll find out next week. In my head, there's like little nuggets of memory floating around, but I don't know how they connect and I don't know what causes them. And I'm like, okay, they're going to connect somehow. But I don't know how Killua gets kicked out, but I think he gets kicked out. But I don't think he kills anybody here. I don't think, unless it's Bordero, but he would have had to make it to the end. So how does he get past Pakal? How does he get past his brother to make it to Bordero if he kills Bordero? That's the only person, because I think Hanzo and the other guy live, and I know Illumini lives. So how does Bordero die? I don't know. I don't know. That part is like my big question mark. I think that Killua is one that gets kicked out, and then that leads Gon to like get him back in somehow, but I don't remember how that happens. Anyway, I think I zoned out during the Hanzo and Gon battle because I remembered none of it. I didn't remember the arm breaking. I didn't remember anything. All this part here, I don't remember. I must have been grading papers really hard when this happened, but I like Killua a lot, so I do remember parts with Killua, but I don't remember how we get to this point. I definitely think that Netero has a thing against Killua. I really think he does. I don't think he likes Killua. I think he views Killua as a threat, which is hilarious because he's 12. And I think that because he directly, kind of directs his methodologies towards Killua. Now, here's the thing I wanted to say. When Killua is having this crack in the armor about having less potential, if I remember correctly, I feel like, remember when I said that Killua has some trauma to unpack? Yeah, I think that his family's tortured him. Because we see that shot of him in the ED where he's chained up to the wall. I think Killua's been tortured by his own family. Surprising no one, they're assassins. But they want him to be the best assassin. So I feel like their like hurt people mentality has caused them to like torture Killua until he's like able to be a better assassin. So when Killua is faced with the possibility that someone is better than him and he can't measure up, it causes this giant inferiority complex to unravel. Is what I think. Now, do I know all the fine details? No, I've forgotten those. But I'm so curious. Also, Illumini caked up. Hisoka, I feel why. I don't know who's the top and who's the bottom in that. I feel like they could switch. They would switch. They would switch. They would actually. So never mind. But yeah, loved the Leorio and Kurapika parental things going on. Really liked Hanzo in this episode. I got to know Hanzo a lot more. And then Gon is just, here's the thing. Gon is not willing to give up. And while I do think for this specific game, it works out, in the real world, it's going to be, I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how it's going to work. But what I will say is, Gon establishing how much dexterity he has and how much perseverance he has, I feel like at some point, Killua's going to have this complex of like, I'm not worth it. And you guys, because Killua isolates. He has an slight inferiority complex. I feel like he's going to tap into that. And then Gon, because Gon doesn't surrender, Gon's going to be all Goonies and be like, never say die. I'm going to be your ride or die forever. And I feel like it's going to strengthen him and Killua's bond. I think that's what's going to happen. But again, I can't quite remember. But otherwise, I don't know if I have any other spoilers, although this shot is still one of my favorites in the episode. The way that Hisoka looks over to him is really good. I freaking love this shot, and the fact that they always show him and Illumini together. We're not beating any allegations, y'all. Y'all know that. No allegations being beaten. I don't know if I'm going to be able to wait for comments before watching episodes 20 and 21. I don't know if I'm going to be able to wait because I feel like I'm going to want to see these episodes so much. Because now I'm like, oh, I want to see what's going down. I want to see how did this bracket all line up. I don't remember these fights. So that tells me either we're going to like skip a bunch of them and they're going to be told to us off screen, or I'm in for a lot of surprises because I don't remember these fights at all. They're not in a tower, so I don't remember them. Oh, but God, I've talked over 2 hours about these 2 episodes, but they're so worth it. Anyway, so I did want one thing. Whenever Hanzo had the knife up against Gon's head and he was talking about his dad, and I kept wanting it to transition over to Netero and see his reaction, and we don't do that. I'm like, how dare you? How dare you? I want more on Jing. Come on now. I'm going to be a hunter and go find him. And I'm not going to give up. I also think that Gon, his perseverance, is literally what it means to be a hunter. It's not about how strong you are. It's not about how smart you are. It's about how much passion and determination you have to achieve your goal. That's what it comes down to. Because Minchi can relate to that. Netero talks about that. Lipo, I'm sure, relates to it. I think all the hunters that have passed understand that you have to be willing to sacrifice it all for your agenda. And no matter, because that's the thing. Killua believes that it's a competition of who's the fittest. But that's not how the hunter exam works. It's not survival of the fittest. It's survival of the people who care the most and are willing to do anything to achieve it. That's kind of how that goes. It's not a matter of brains and brawn. It's a matter of passion and soul. So, we're going to see where that leads us. But yeah, so that's what I got. We're going to see how that goes next week. What a shot to end on. Of Gon. So, anyway, I'm excited to hear your thoughts down below, but I don't think I can wait till next week. I think I'm just gonna have to watch it. Oh my god. I think we're gonna have to watch it and talk about it, but we'll see. So anyway, I'm excited. I hope you all are as well, but I'm curious about your thoughts down below. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, don't ask me about 1999's anime. I'll be back very soon. Oh my god. And we'll talk more about episodes 20 and 21 of Hunter x Hunter. And I'll see you all then. Bye.